Let's get this party popping.
We starting. I think we broadcasting now. So this hangout is live.
It's over everything.
Yeah. We live, man. I don't know. Like we was getting into it, but I ain't gonna front. I wasn't really listening because I was in the background, just trying to make sure everything was just running. You get me? Not even smooth. I was just trying to make sure everything was running. Still, I couldn't. Like people couldn't hear me. You man couldn't hear me. The audience couldn't hear me. So I missed out. I don't know how far you got with it still. So if you want to continue from where you left off, or if you want to give like a brief presentation, you want to do like a 5-minute thing, Ralph, giving a brief presentation. I don't know if you went over it already of what you mean by race realism and what you think the implications of race realism are for humanity. Of what you mean by race realism.
No worries. I think I just did that, but I'll just do it again. We for race realism as part of the neo-reactionary right, we think a description of human beings in society must be grounded.
Stick a pin. Pardon me. See how you said the neo-reactionary right? Yeah. Cause now I'm gonna let you get through your presentation still, but yeah, just explain to me what that one is quickly. Reactionary? Why is it? What you reacting to?
So it's a good idea to start there. Let's start there. So what is the new right? The neo-reactionary right is we're neo, so we're new, and we're reacting. What are we reacting to? We're reacting to the fact that we think that the age of reason or the Enlightenment that started in the 15th century. So if you look at that, we have the age of faith from Christ till about 1500. And then 300, 200 years, we suddenly had the age of reason. It's called the Enlightenment. And from that, using reason as opposed to faith, we got individual freedoms, capitalism, liberty, democracy, science, medicine, the whole thing. Now, we think that reason, that age of enlightenment project has run its course. And we think the world has to go forward, and it can't go forward until we question some of those fundamental things that happen because of the age of reason. And the answer to questioning that is what we call the neo-realism stack. And that's what we're reacting to. That makes sense.
You ain't gonna front. All the audience took that in still, car. I was still on making sure that we live things still, but yeah, we're all good. Cool. Say now, man. Go into your presentation then. Race realism.
Well, no, presentation. Yeah. So from that, we say as part of understanding that new reactionary world, we think scientific realism. So if we rolled the clock back just 100 years ago, some really important things happened, and the most important thing happens in reverse order is that we came out of 2 world wars. We decided that liberal democracies at the end of World War II would be the way to organize. And at that point, the world could be thought of as 3 different worlds: the First World, Second World, and Third World. All the empires had been retreated up. Countries like India, most of the African countries, all were getting national status as countries. The communism collapsed 20, 30 years later. And we now have this First World, Second World, and Third World connected together, globalized. And our job is to, we declare that we don't think that's the correct way society is going. And we're going to fix it by approaching those fundamental things it's built upon, and we're going to challenge them, hence react to them. And in the last 10, 15 years, everyone from Trump, Brexit, populist parties in Europe, the attempt to leave EU, the attempt to now start the German exit of the EU, all of this is our political movement towards this fundamental goal. And our strategy for that is that we cannot accept anything that is not scientifically true. We don't care about your feelings and facts. And the left for the last 50 years have preached a dogma of things we do not believe are true. So we do not believe everything and everyone is equal. We do not believe, for example, that there are reasons for some things that are only social and never biological. We don't believe, for example, that everyone can and live well together, all because we share citizenship. We don't believe in these things. And our job is to use all of that. So race realism is one of the components of that. It's a component of what we call biological realism. So it doesn't apply just to race, it applies to gender too. The way we look at men and women is wrong, it's not biologically rooted correctly. So with gender, race, and this biological, and we can then build up collectivism, and we think we're winning that war. Because to date, our ideas are very difficult to refute. They might be difficult to accept politically and socially and culturally, but we would do that through political power. But the ideas are very difficult to technically refute. Or at least if they are, I'd like to hear the refutations. That's my job.
What are the findings of your race realism in regards to the different races? And how do you define the different races?
So defining races is very important.
Sorry, one sec. Hey, Rash, what you saying?
get your, see that picture that you wanted up. You can share your screen and it will be on your picture. So anytime you're talking,
It will come up. Yeah.
Or you don't even have to do that. You can put it on your screen and you can. I think you can. If you click on the square on the thing, that will stay up. That's what will stay up. So you can have that up.
Yeah. I respect. Don't know, fam.
Yeah, go on, Ralph.
Yeah. So as I was saying, yeah. So we've got so that view of the world. So let's take things about, we can, like we say, it's scientific realism. It can be based on, it can be racial-based biological realism. It could be gender. Let's talk about race. So the left. Let's look at the difference between the left and the right. And there's a good way to look at the political complex. Let's just start there. The left believe, and this is what I didn't manage to communicate properly at Raspect that night. The left believe that when you look at the society level of the building, i.e., how multiple chimps run around together, as opposed to the individual, that the story for the individual is given by what's called systems or theories of systems to the individual. The right typically say no, it's usually the traditional right. Let's call it the old right. The old right would say no, it's family values, it's strong families, it's low crime, high church attendance. That would be the traditional old Christian right, the right which you think the extreme is the Heil Hitler types. The modern new right says no, we don't agree with the left. It's not systems. We'll return to that later. We'll start with the individual, and that must be rooted in biological realism. So we know, for example, even within a family, one brother of three brothers might be really rough and tubby, one might be very shy. Even though they share the closest genetic codes, they're only two apart, they're brothers. And these differences are rooted in biology, and answering racial issues has to be addressed that way, answering sexual issues has to be. So let's just say something very controversial the left don't want to talk about, black crime. So talk about black crime is perfect, right? Because right at the bottom, you have to think about what a crime, what is the genetic description of a human being, and then right at the top of the phenomenon is crime. So if you look at all the crime studies, the best ways to do genetic studies are what are called twin studies. You take two twins, they're identical genes, and you see how they behave in different places in different ways. We have about 50 years now of solid twin study data, and we can see that the biggest single predictor for for any crime is aggression. Now we look at that and we think, well, why is there black crime and aggression? Well, it's an obvious answer that no one wants to hear. Are black people more aggressive? Well, you can see that even white people are aggressive create the same crime, so it's definitely aggression. So then you look at what's the difference between black and white aggression and say, oh, hang on, blacks have different genes that create different, hormone levels. So you look within just black communities, are people with the lower hormone level more likely? And you find gang members, for example, have the highest hormone level.
Sorry, I think I can hear what you're saying, but what it seems like you're trying to do is break down the phenomenon of the races with being completely ignorant to history, like completely ignorant. So if you're going to say why are black people aggressive, like you're being ignorant to the transatlantic slave trade, you're being ignorant to colonialism and things that might actually cause people to have a genuine anger. I think another thing you're completely leaving out with when you're talking about the right and the left and saying that the right's about family issues. If we're talking about historically, the right, it's not big, it wasn't family issues and all of these things that allowed them to build the empire which you're defending now. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about family issues. It was about, it was KKK agendas. It was the agendas of the colonialists. This is what is at the core. This is the core action. This is the history of the people. So you're here selling us a very nice ideology right now. And I'm here, it tastes sweet like sugar candy. But what I don't see, what I would be interested in to see is how many people are in this organization with you. Do you have 10,000, 20,000 out of the millions of people in the UK? And how much is that steering the agenda of the right? Because if that is just your opinion and it's not actually steering the agenda of the right, then it means nothing to our community. Because
absolutely,
at the core of the right is still the majority opinions that we see come into the park that say to us that the Jews should never forget their 5-year Holocaust, but Africans should forget our 500-year Holocaust. They say that there's no racism anymore. This is on video. You can look it on Content or Rex TV. Yeah. They say that we should be happy for colonialism and slavery because we've been civilized and we're better off now. So these are the rhetoric we hear coming from the right. We hear rhetoric calling the people who were enslavers and pillagers explorers. These are the rhetoric that's coming from the far right. And another thing I'd say is when you're saying to us, throw away Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X, and Martin Luther King, their ideologies were based upon self-sufficiency. You know what I'm saying? So if anything, the actual ideologies you're giving to the right, yeah, they didn't come from the left, they didn't come from the right. Their thing was about self-sufficiency in-house. So that means we're not pledging our allegiance to Britain first, especially if we don't agree with the internal policy, how they're dealing with us on the inside, whether it's America, where there's mass police brutality, but even over here we have Smiley Culture, Mark Duggan, and one life is more valuable than 100 buildings, yeah? Or when it's dealing with the actual issues that our community are dealing with. We feel like they're kind of anti those narratives.
Okay, so I think I understand your point and question. So let's break it down. There's two parts there. Actually, there's two subparts, and then there's a bigger part. The first part is you're talking about history. So if you look at it, and we now create the neo-realistic way of looking at anything, any problem, as I described before, your history for any human beings is the sum experiences propagated through your genes. You do not pass on your experiences to your child. So different traits are passed on at different genetic levels, right? So certain traits have a certain percentage of hereditary. So it's always a mix of two things, right? How much percent from my genes and how much percent from my environment.
So what are you saying? Are you saying that because obviously you know like there's probably only 20 countries that Britain hasn't invaded, yeah? And you know there's been genocide from Australia to America, and everywhere else was either slavery or colonialism. So are you saying that biologically Europeans are more savage than everyone else? Is that what you're trying to break down to us?
No. So what I'm trying to say, if you bear with me for a second, just give me a minute to answer it. What I'm saying is, it doesn't matter anything, white colonialism, Arab slave trade, black slave trade, East Indian European economic buy, it doesn't matter what historical behavior you're talking about, that would have expressed itself in a set of generation of genes with a genetic history in them that at any point in time describes the behavior of the people. So what we're saying is, we're not in here to sell a narrative. Yes, these people, that's not the question. The question to ask is, given the current state of the board, where we are 2019, in Hackney or in Tower Hamlets, if this behavior occurs, at that point in time, we want to describe what it is, and its history must have been captured in its genetic accumulation, because where else would it be? Some percentage is genetic, other percentage is social cultural. So the first question is, for that behavior, what percentage of it is social versus genetic? Once you know which part of it is genetic, you can go down and see what genes and what things call it. Once you know which bit is not genetic, you can do statistical social science analysis and say what factors. So let me give a very simple example. The biggest for crime data study in the United States for black crime, the biggest one we have, the largest data sets, looked at 11 different statistical models for black crime. Population size, population density, I'm looking at the report right now, age, single parent income, poverty, income inequality, unemployment rate, and being north to south as in direct descendants of US slavery could not explain the model. None of those things are explaining crime. But the black crime is still in that data set. So the explanation is none of those things. On the other hand, if there was something that had a black crime history that was social, like segregation for the housing districts, the red line, the lead patrol in Baltimore, then that should show up in the statistics. So for any type of statement you make, you must say, hey, what does this look like in the genetic pool? What does it look like in statistics? The narrative that this is my current economic position today for tomorrow is because 150 years ago my ancestor was a slave is not showing up in the data. It's showing up in your stories. So if I quoted Bob Marley in the opening of the Redemption song, if I said, emancipate yourself from mental slavery because none but ourselves can free our mind. What is he actually saying? The slavery is mental.
Yeah, we're fully for that. That's what I'm saying. When you're talking about emancipation, and obviously you will never be able to relate to this, maybe, because I don't think you grew up around the black community, let alone being black.
South London, bro.
But I'm just saying, when we're talking about being emancipated, our minds are emancipated when we read speeches of people like Marcus Garvey, when we see the works of people like Malcolm X. This is somewhere where, and this is right across the board, Ralph. Like I don't think I'll go anywhere in my community and there's not someone who hasn't taken some sort of inspiration and emancipation. If it's not from Garvey, then it's definitely from Malcolm and Martin, or Malcolm and Martin both got it from Garvey. So like,
but no one's dissing. I like, no one's. I'm not disagreeing with inspiration from Malcolm X, inspiration from Mahatma Gandhi, inspiration from the Dalai Lama. All I'm saying is it doesn't make a difference to the data. The data is king.
What the data that are you talking about? The data of what historically is being done, the foreign policy of this country, the women and children in Afghanistan. Is that what we're talking about?
I'm talking about any point in time today. Let's take a simple example, right? So 82% of something of crime in London, black crime, is black on black crime.
Yeah.
So you could tell me about slavery, oppression narratives, but this is 82% of the data is black on black crime. So if you told me a Malcolm X story and none of that shows up in the statistical data, and none of it shows up genetically, I can appreciate the story, but it's not solving the problem.
It's the same thing in Scotland and places like this. And if we're talking about world crime, if we're talking about actually in the world, you know what I'm saying? This little black on black crime, that's the worst that we're seeing from the black community. It's
correct, but not only that, we're seeing the same data.
I'm saying the worst that we can talk about is Jerome and Andrew having a fight, yeah, and one of them going to jail because Jerome slipped and hit his head. But I'm saying on the other hand, you've got people dropping drones on innocent women and children. Like, we ain't got nothing to do with that. We're not even on that level of actual crime in the world on a worldly scale. And I feel like your lingo and all of that, it slightly like is covering the truth of what's going on. The facts of the matter is, yeah, if we're talking about even in America, yes, Chicago's mad. But if we're talking about school shootings, people that have gone and shot schools and churches, yeah, women and children, that has never been done by someone in our community. That is mad. We like literally in the history, we've never done a school shooting.
Okay, so I understand what you're saying, Raspect, but that's not. There's no disagreement here. What I'm saying is not that. What I'm saying is, if I want to describe a white imperialistic bombing as a phenomena, let's say post 1990s, since the first Gulf War, the black community, the Chinese community, and the Vietnamese people have got nothing to do with it. Neither have black people. If I wanted to blame black on black crime, India's white imperialists have got nothing to do with it.
That makes sense when white people made an asserted effort to take black people from their land and beat our name out. How can them white people have nothing to do with it? I don't understand that.
Because none of them are alive.
Huh?
You're not alive. No slave owner is alive today. In the black white slave trade, no black slave.
No, what we're saying is that this is how empire was built. So all we're doing is we're holding people to accountability. So basically, we have the colonized mind and the non-colonized mind. You understand? So obviously, right now, I feel like you're representing the colonized mind. So they come to you, they've done all the things, and then you're like, oh, it's in the past, and now I'm going to work for these men. Whereas me, I come from the mindset where they're still not being respectful to us anyway. You know what I'm saying? And the people that are not in my position of quote unquote privilege, yeah, I could have been put in their position. Now, what I would be saying is, then I'd be forgetting about myself if I was at a lower position. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm trying to do is go back to where they've done the damage and lift it up. You understand? And unfortunately, when I go and I try to lift it up, I see that there's been a concerted effort by the foreign policy of this country, and even with their trades and all of these things, to actually hold the continent down. So then this becomes a problem. Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. But my point is, I would actually agree with you to go the other way. There is no way you're going to win that war without power. And you're not going to get the power unless you get off the left's progressive plantation.
No, we're not on the less progressive plantation. Malcolm X is on the less progressive plantation.
Because the left are singing you the oppression narrative. And
no, but this is
you just repeated it.
This is where you get twisted. You said this to me earlier. You said that I got my knowledge of the right from the left. No, I got my
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
in our debate, you said that I got my philosophy. It's a left narrative. It didn't come from the left. It came from me speaking to the right. I don't deal with the left either.
Raspect, you're mistaking what. No, I'm saying. I'm not saying where you got it from.
Listen. If the narrative of Marcus Garvey, yeah, was which is one of the most successful narratives. I do no hero worship. I'm just looking at the all of the institutions and the industries that was done in the time and the teachings, and I'm saying that yeah, that's something that should be preserved in our community because we're trying to wash it out. Now, what I'm saying is, whether that narrative, yeah, was the left, whether it was inspired by up or down, we don't care about that. We want to know whether this works for us, and this is why we choose it. But
and your
nothing to
answer
do with
is, and the answer for me, from direct and short and to the point, is it's been tried for you since 1960, and it's failed you for 60 years.
No, it has never been tried. This is what I'm saying. Even when we rose up, no, the CIA, yeah, J. Edgar Hoover, yeah, I don't know if you know about him, and this is where you might be ignorant.
Yeah.
J. Edgar Hoover made a concerted effort and actually employed the first ever black CIA agent to infiltrate Marcus Garvey's movement. And the CIA and the FBI made a concerted effort, yeah, to sabotage Marcus Garvey. Why is that? They done the same thing right through to the Black Panther Party, yeah, CIA and FBI. These are national agent systems of the West, yeah, and they're actively working to destabilize us. If we're not on the right road and we're not doing the right thing that is going to make us better off, why would they put so much effort into destabilizing it?
Okay, so let me answer this way. So let me now address what you're trying to say. So let's pretend, for example, let's assume that everything you say is right, and Marcus Garvey, like, say, true communism has never been done correctly before. You can say, I want to start from zero, like you say, and it's never been done before, and I'm going to use a black militant far left approach to politics to obtain total economic freedom. Or option two, I'm going to go with the left and the progressive plantation, because they and all my other members of that collective are going to get me the answer. Or or C, you're going to go the right wing way. I'm not asking you which way to go, whatever it is. I'm telling you which way I think you should go. You can choose to go which way you think the answer is.
No, right or left. You're in the mentality of right and left. We are just going to
not you, me. The entire world. The world works that way. Raspect, the world works that way. You don't have to.
Ralph. Let him finish. I want you to instead of using right and left, Ralph, I want you to give like practical definitions of what it is exactly you think man should be doing in it.
Okay, yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you what, I'll argue for the left and for the right. Okay, the picture is not me. That is the picture. So if I was a left, let me give an example. So if I was the Labour Party and the left, or all the socialists and the types in the comments going, hey, let's take the left way to get black power, you would say, we're going to form a collective with everyone else in the Labour Party. We care about Muslims, minorities, gays, all together. And we're going to go for social programs, social welfare, social housing. We're going to make sure that police laws are stopped, stop-and sentences removed and scourged. Black kids can't be harassed on the street. These would be all the left-wing approaches to your problems. The right wing would say, that's exactly the source of your problem. It's keeping you down. These are the things you need to do, blah, 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 blah. So those two sets of policies, the left and the right, are the sets of policies you must choose.
Pause.
Yeah.
I heard you explain what the left-wing policies were.
Yeah.
But when you come to the right, you just say blah, 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 blah. I'm on the details. Give me the what exactly you should do.
Yeah, so the right wing policy is quite easy. We break them down. The right puts the individual as supreme. The most important thing you need to do, depending on what age you are and where you are, is to improve yourself. And by improving yourself, you're going to move your family. And improving yourself, you're going to improve the people around you. And you're going to do that by discipline, order, responsibility. That's the right's fundamental approach to everything. The further you go right, because I keep saying I'm farther right and further right, the further you go right, the more you take those instructions from God. With
your all of the race realism research that you've done and the conclusions that you've drawn up, what do you think the black race, if that's what you'll call it, what do you think the prospects are for the black race, like left alone to their own devices?
I think if left alone, the black races is good. So if you look at the economic data, it's quite terrible, right? So if you look at since the liberal experiment has been run for black community since civil rights in 1960s, the black and white community income gap, even though overall income has grown, has fallen 2.2 times. Whitey is 2 times richer than you were relative to each other in the 1960s. So the first thing you have to look at is your economic power is low. The next question to ask is, why is your economic power low? Because that's what you've got to fix. Without economic power in the modern world, you're not getting anywhere. So all the questions then fall from that. But why has economic power been low as relatives? Because the left have said, don't you worry about a thing, we're giving you handouts. So the first practical thing is, you don't take a penny from anything. All I want is the best job. I want to start my job, my new job, immediately thinking how I'm going to leave this job and get
And
my
who
next
is?
best job.
Pause a minute, Ralph. Who is the left that you speak of when you speak of the left is influenced?
So the central political thing is the middle left. So if you when you get a minute content, just after you finish, just go type in Google Images political compass. If you put that on, it'll make sense for everyone. The close middle left to the center is the Labour Party and the Liberals. The further left you go, the further you get to Jeremy Corbyn. If you go all the way far out, you get to all the Marxist end of the loony end of the Labour Party. If you stay in the middle and you go the other way right, first you get the Liberal Democrats, then you get all the softy conservatives, then you get the harder core conservatives, then you get the racist old white guy from Somerset conservative, and then you start going towards the BNP and everyone else, right? So the question is, where is economic success? It's not on the left, it's always on the right. So economic power comes from the right. Social welfare comes from the left. Getting more money, a better phone, a better job, a better house comes from the right. Making sure everyone's covering your ass and all that is coming from the left. The black problem for the black community in the data is crystal clear. All their problems are correlated to the left handouts. So you've got to break off that, but the left won't want to let you go. And how did the left keep you on the plantation? One word: racism. Mate, I've just come on Speaker's Corner. I've been racially abused about ways I couldn't even imagine, right? And I find it all fucking funny, right? So I've been racially abused. Racism, if that stopped me doing anything, I wouldn't be going anywhere, would I? Racism is a thing. You can never be racist to me. I would never give you permission to offend me. How dare you?
That's what good, but these blanket statements, yeah, like, you see, the thing is, yeah, obviously I see the world through your paradigm, and I hear the whole breakdown of the right and left. Man, know me. My thing is that none of it ain't work for our people. Our people need to come together and do like exactly what the blueprint says and build up economic infrastructure from the inside. We didn't learn that from the right. We didn't learn that from the left. Like, we've got these philosophies already in-house. We might not be executing them to the best of the ability, but then I feel like your story completely negates the actual colonial system. The fact that these men, yeah, do things in military ways to hold power. So, end of the day, that's the first thing, and the only thing that's gonna stop that is when we as a people look at this system for where it is. So, like, what do you think the future of Africa is, Ralph?
I think right now Africa's on the biggest brink of three massive problems. So me on the side of the far right, and you can see I can say that, and everyone's gonna get triggered, and it's nice because it gets everything nice and comfortable. That's why I use the word chimp all the time. Chimp crushes everyone's fucking ego. So for Africa, what is the problem? In Africa, we have 2.5. The population of Africa is going to explode. Africa has the lowest per capita GDP. Africa's resources are being at what we would call investment banking asset stripped. India and China, supported by the West, are asset stripping Africa. That's the current pattern in the next 20 years. That population explosion is a crisis for Africa, and it's a crisis for the West, not for the East. India and China, have half the planet, are not letting any Africans or any non-Indians or Chinese whiteys get into their lands. That population is heading to whitey. In the next 10 to 20% of 15 thresholds, whitey is going to go to civil war with himself to stop immigration. Either immigration stops or whitey is going to civil war. That's going to happen. And I know people on all sides, because you cannot bring 35% of Africa into Europe and not expect eventually white boys to go, you're fucking with me, right? And you know what happens when that happens? So we don't want that. Africa is in the part and the source of both the problem and the solution for the world landscape in the next 20 years.
Let's say your solution. If you've analyzed that that's a problem, and the resources are being taken out, what do you say? The resources are being stripped. The birth rate is going up through the roof.
Yep.
So eventually, there's not going to be enough. Like, the people on the, obviously in my mind, I'm thinking, right, if there's not going to be nothing here for me, and there's like more, there's double than there was in terms of the population last year. For real, like, we got to go somewhere where we can sustain ourselves in it. So that's going to happen.
There's two solutions. So that if you think of immigration global flow using the concept of pull and push factors, you're right. The pull factor to Europe is going to be benefit systems, jobs, a better life, etc. Right? The push factor is going to be Africa's got nothing for me, nothing in there. But if you put their hat on the other side, for white guys in Europe, there's only 800 million of them, and I know lots of very, very far-right ones in good positions of power. They're going, hang on a second, you're going to replace 30, 40% of us because you're a left-wing government. We didn't say yes, and you know what happens? Whitey goes to war. Those Africans aren't getting in. They're not going to match drones.
So do you think
it doesn't matter how many of them come over there. Whitey intends to nuke them at the coast if they're necessary.
Ralph, do you think that the Africans on the continent will see their only option as just leaving?
Leaving is going to be what they think is going to happen. The assumption you think is Whitey's going to let it happen to them, and I can assure you they will not. And I would stand on the side. Is
that what you see as them looking at their options?
I see these as, well, I don't know that. I know it's being calculated for, but I see the scenarios going, let's not get there. I make it to people in private politics. So my point is, why would we want that to occur for either Whitey or Africa? That's a lose-lose scenario. What we really want is Africa to be prosperous, not to necessarily be raped by other people, and that requires black leadership. So the game theoretic outcome for Africa is Africa gets fucked over. Africa gets fucked over by going to war with everyone else. Africa hobbles along and everyone rapes Africa. Africa taking on the West is just not going to occur because you just don't have the power. And there's nowhere to go east. Indians and Chinese are not letting anyone in. So what's the true solution from the right? The far right would call for...
Bro, like...
Now I can say it's true solution, fam. I was about to go into it. Say your true solution, Ralph, what you feel the far right
I think the true solution, if I was encouraged... I know lots of very far-right people in this movement. I've been in this movement from the start. This movement started 2-3 years, about 18 years ago. And I was there in 9/11 when everything really happened. It's been the objective in the last 30, 40 years. Our objective, I'll be clear, I tell you, one of my objectives is to defend the West first. It's the most important thing to have defended. And with that West is, where is the black, fuck Wakanda. Wakanda is a fucking disgrace because it was made by a whitey image of a black super city. Where is the real modern day Malcolm X? Where is the modern black Adolf Hitler that says, fuck that shit, Africa is rich and full of resources. We know how whitey runs the show here. Let's get this game on. And that will never happen if you're on the left progressive plantation. That just can't happen from there, man. Right. And I went to Africa for work recently. I went to South Africa. I could see the entrepreneurship growing. I could see the people coming in and out. There's so much buzz and opportunity in Africa.
Let's set the plans, Ralph. Let's set the plans, Ralph. Let's set the plans, mate. Let's set the plans.
Well, but Africa has a lot of... So if you look at Africa, why is Africa important to India, China, and the West? Is it because of what Africa got? Is it because just the resources? No. It has the highest potential growth rate. That's what matters.
I'm gonna have to talk directly to black people, yeah. Like, if you're hearing the way this guy's got no faith in our self-determination, yeah, like, it's crazy, yeah. But anyway, yeah, and the rest of the world can hear anyway, yeah. But fam, yeah, are you listening? See your solutions, yeah. They ain't gonna work for us. They're saying like the black Adolf Hitler. Now,
I'm just being silly, yeah. Go on. I'm just being.
I hear you. But I gotta be 100. Like, man's not really into them jokes there. Cause you don't need none of that energy, yeah. That's the first thing, yeah. There was something prior to that, which I've lost the point on. But my main thing is, yeah, that right that you speak of, yeah, they've never they've never pushed these ideologies in our community. So when you said your allegiance is 1 minute, when you said your allegiance to the West, yeah. I can't lie. For me personally, so you've kind of showed where your allegiances are. So your allegiances are never going to be for the best interest of what? Because like,
no, that's not true. But I want black Africa to sit on the table of the first world. No, but I'm not going to give up the table of the first world. So you got me wrong there. Yeah, I would defend the first world against the second and third. But I want Africa, everyone to be at the first world.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So me, I know for a fact that even if we took a seat,
sorry, Ralph. That being the case, I don't like, because if you're a race realist, and like I said, your findings, I don't know if you really believe like I know ideally you would like everyone to sit at the same table, but realism tells you that we're all different, right? So
Right.
do you really believe that we're capable at all sitting at the same table?
Yeah, I think if you imagine so if you take the Star Trek, I remember these people told me, if you take the Star Trek model of the world, there's only two models of that collective top table. The far left model of a collective top table, there'd be 7 or 8, one Chinese, one English guy, one black guy, sitting at that top table in a collective committee. In the right table, those emperors would be one emperor, could be black, white, or blue, over the next second command triangle. I want a black person on that table on both models. I just don't want the left model. I want the right.
Oh, so the black person can be at the top then?
Well, why not? Fuck not. Hey, I don't know how quick you are, man, but I know you and I can't fucking take the same boat, right? Can you? I can't. I know you fucking can't.
Say that again?
Neither you and I can fucking run down speakers faster than the same boat, right? I might be faster than you, bro. But neither of us are faster. He's the fastest man on the planet. So the only thing stopping you believe you can run the planet is yourself.
But do you think that if the future of Africa is to be a Western colony then?
No, the future of Africa is to, if you don't step up to the table, you're going to be colonized.
No, but what I'm saying is, that you're saying that your allegiance is to the West and you're not looking to give up the place, and the West is already at the top, and whoever comes in has to be second in command.
Not the West, not the West, the first world.
Yeah, but Africa, black people, the first world is made up of mainly
the winners.
Yeah,
it always changes in history.
Yeah.
1,000 years ago, the Syrians were the top of the world. For 1,800 years, the Babylonians are the top of the world. 3,000 years,
So what you're saying, you're saying the winners are at the top. I'm cool with this, you know. How my thing is that I'm fully with what you're saying. And this is why I show my people that we don't need to turn into them and become like Adolf Hitler, but we do need to know these mentalities are there and work amongst ourselves to combat this thing. So I'm very happy to have this conversation and go as deep as we need to be. Because I feel
and sometimes you've got to practice, you know, what one of my teachers who've made a lot of influence on me in my life said, hey, you think in the large, Raspect, think in the large and do in the small. So the goal was black teacher for this guys. Huh? Was he black? No, it was a Chinese woman. But
I'm joking. Hey, cool. Raven, Scattered, ShakaRa, you man ain't said nothing from the start, you know. You saying no one wanna open your mouth and say something.
Right, yeah, well, we've just been listening, to be fair. It's gone quite a lot of different places. I don't know what to jump in, really.
I do. I've got about 3 questions still.
Go ahead.
But I'll give way for Scattered if he wants to come in first, because I know he's got to, do the number 4. Nope. All right, cool. What am I saying? Right, Ralph. My name is Shaka.
What's up, man?
Yeah. So I got about 3 questions in my head. Yeah. The first question is, how does racial realism account for psychology?
Okay, so that's a good one. So where does psychology sit, right? So psychology sits. If you imagine the model we talked about, so I've got biology gets to chemistry, gets to genes. So what happens after genes? They get expressed in your body in either a physical form, your hair, skin color, or some behavioral or cognitive mental form, right? So there's your body as a physical body, then how the muscles etc. behave. Are you hungry, you're tired, you're having a wank, and then your mental model. So until about 25, 30 years ago, we had the whole branches of psychology from Freud to Jung to everyone trying to create models of the world. In the 80s, I did early computer science research in artificial intelligence. We tried for about 15 to 17 years to create artificial intelligence models of the mind, and it didn't really work. Only in the last 20, 25 years have we got the new techniques which say, hey, rather than trying to invent a model of the mind, why don't we just keep recording what the fuck's going on? And by recording these models of the mind, we now see, hey, it looks like these are the rough, crude models of how people think. So to answer your question again, racialism genetics says by linking up that step up the building, we expect in the next 5, 10 years to have very advanced models of mind. Just for example, machine learning technology right now is showing us insights we never knew. So for a year ago, before I created my startup company, I worked at a large fashion retailer in London. And for the year, I rebuilt their whole systems for the firm. And they would have 30 million millennials shopping, buying 45,000 things a second. every Thursday or Friday, sometimes crazy things would happen. And one Friday afternoon, we sold 136,000 choke collars for a girl. And we were like, what the fuck? How would we have suddenly spiked and created this amazing sales? And when you do all the machine learning AI went into all the data and finally found the girl and what she did and the patterns that explain the whole buying behavior. So to answer your question again, mental models of the mind are going to be given in the next 10 years, given to us by a combination of machine learning and genetics and biology.
So
Not psychology. Psychology will not be able to give us a kind of formula for the mind. That's never going to happen. So, yeah.
Okay, so you're saying, I'm tapping into what you're saying. So basically, what I get from what you're saying is that psychology is pseudoscience.
It's an old science that is no longer, just like, for example, astrology, different forms of medicine, they're no longer relevant because they don't fit into the current intellectual models. Yeah.
So what you're saying is that consciousness then can be completely biologically determined.
God, that's a great question. Now, consciousness is completely different. So consciousness is often confused with multiple things. There's the thing you think is, and we think is our consciousness, right? But now we know increasingly that thing you think is you right now, talking to me, that story you're telling yourself in your head, that's running up to 1.5 to 2 seconds after it's already happened.
Right.
So that story you think that you are, that consciousness, is actually kind of like almost like a ghost in the machine. So there's biology that happens first.
Yes.
And we can probably understand that. But that kind of magic that does that switch, that kind of effect, that seems very quantum. Every time we go deep into it, it's very quantum.
Let me use a different word, yeah? Let's throw away the word consciousness, and let's just say how we think, yes? How we think, there's a common adage that says thoughts control actions. So based on what you're saying, thoughts are completely biologically determined.
Thoughts are, because well, I personally don't, because I believe I'm a Christian. So I believe something completely different. I believe ultimately there's a transcendental boundary for being. And even if science can explain that transcendental boundary in any form of deterministic models, whatever it is, I still believe there's something that is beyond that makes us what we are. But then again, I believe in God.
Isn't that a contradiction to your entire argument?
No, it isn't. There's no contradiction between being a Christian and a scientist.
No, not necessarily being a Christian, but this transcendental ideal of the self, that cannot be explained. How does that fit into an ideology that believes that everything can be explained?
Well, I don't believe everything can be explained. I think all that does is gives us dead answers. That's
okay. But you're skipping my question, which is, how do you fit this transcendental idea of the self, that cannot be understood, into an ideology that completely tries to reduce people to their biology and determine their behavior by their biology and their outcomes, both individually and collectively by their biology?
Okay, I get the question back. Yeah, absolutely. So I think you've answered almost at the tail end of the question itself. There's a very big difference between what you call predicting or describing a group as opposed to predicting or describing an individual, right? So the security forces right now can take less than 36 minutes within the Zone 6 area to find someone by CCTV if the security service consider it a live active operation. So if I think someone is going to take out the bridge right now, I can find you in a city of 7 million people, 36 just using machines, no humans. So if you ever enter the UK, if I wanted to clock you and find out who you are, I could take a mobile picture of you. And if I had access to computer systems, I could find you just visually.
Right.
So groups and behaviors can be predicted with formidable accuracy and speed, but I don't know which nutter is going to fucking lose it today and drive the car off the bridge. That's his individual narrative. What I can say is that particular person of that data set has this statistical chance of doing it. But what happens that one day, like you might have heard a year or two ago, you remember that German pilot who got really depressed, drunk, and then he drove that plane and all the people to the ground a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
And he had a perfect flight track record for 30 years, right? That day he just lost it, right?
Okay. So from what I hear, from what I get from what you're saying, and this is my last question on this psychology point, I'm going to go to something else. You're saying that as far as racial realism is concerned, you don't yet have a science of the mind, but you will have it in 10 years' time.
Oh, we'll have an increasing version of the science, but even when we have the science, technically there's a very big difference between something that has explanatory power and something that you think is determinism.
Well, if it's not explanatory, then it's not
explanatory, but explanatory might not be deterministic. So it doesn't mean I ever have a day where I get up and some program will be able to predict what Ralph's going to do today, or what he's going to do in 3 days, right? There's no Minority Report, if you've seen that film. That's not
right. Yeah, I have seen the film, but to clarify though, because you're saying that the mind can be scientifically understood, yes.
Yeah, increasingly. Yeah.
But you're saying that racial realism has not yet come up with the evidence, the data to have created a science of the mind.
No, what we're saying already is that racialism now has data that the left don't know what to do and are freaking out about, because we can already see things like race, crime, we can see shit that is taboo, right?
Where can we find this data?
Oh, after the stream is over, I can, if it's okay with Leon, I can set up a shared Google Drive slides. I can start giving you guys places where you can jump off and go look yourself, because obviously from all the comments and everyone else, people love to see if these things are right or wrong. Know what to trust to listen to me. We've got nice content, got all these platforms. I could post a bunch of links. It's okay, Leon, somewhere after this is over or tomorrow, and then people can start chasing, going like, "This Ralph guy's fucking smoking crack. This is shit," and then we can take it from there, right?
Okay, no problem. All right, so going on to something else now, yeah.
I think that's important. That's important to find. There's a lot of linguistics right now, and no delete or receipts, as we would say. You get me?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
It will be interesting to study these things and be able to really look at it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, man. Yeah. And to have conversations about it as people teach each other and learn from each other, right? That's the way you share the cultural knowledge, right? Yeah.
My next line of questioning is in relation to this analysis of behavior that you say is racially determined.
Yeah.
And you focused on black crime, yeah, as nobody wants to speak about it.
Yeah, as an example.
Say again?
As an example, yeah.
I'd say another example that nobody wants to speak about is like white criminality in the sense. So I would ask you if you would agree, then based upon the things that you said, that if we can say that black people have a propensity towards certain kinds of crime, that based upon history and the data and so on and so forth, would it be true then to say that white people have a propensity towards mass genocide, germ warfare?
Okay, so there's two things to split there, right? There's two things. Yeah, there's two things to split out there. I think one thing is there another set of behaviors you can attribute only to white people, or only to German white people, or only to Indian people, or only to Pakistani rape gangs, for example, right? And there's another question that's embedded, and I hear this question a lot, is there a moral equivalency? If you're pointing the finger black, saying black people are doing this thing bad, can I also point the moral equivalent finger, either historically or right now what our soldiers might be doing in the Middle East? So those are two separate questions, and it's bad to conflate them. Can we point to white people doing certain behaviors? Yeah, we have things that are almost exclusively white, right? Crimes, all sorts of behaviors that are exclusively white. Can we give them genetic explanations? Just like saying, oh, it's not just that blacks are pre-programmed, whites are pre-programmed too. So yes, of course, all races, same realistic stack. Or the moral equivalence argument is a completely different argument. You should confuse the two. The moral equivalence argument is saying, hey, blacks done, if you're pointing at black, he's saying black's doing something bad, like stabbing, taxing people. What about whitey? He's doing this. That's a moral equivalence argument. The bottom one is scientific.
You know that the white youths in Scotland are doing way more stabbings and shootings than even the black youths in London. So
white collar crime is exclusively white. For example, pedophilia, lots of types are white.
In their levels, because remember, we don't manufacture any of these guns in our community in these things. It comes, and the drugs and these things. And when you're looking at the actual, even in London, you know what I'm saying? You still got the Irish. You still got the different groups who are definitely active in the street.
Now you've got Eastern European groups doing different things in different ways. You've never seen certain things. Yeah, everybody has a pattern in the reactionary stack of neorealism that says your genes, your biology applies to all types of people. It also applies across gender. Look at the problems of men and women, yeah? Men and women have a whole set of these things.
You can't, because, okay, first of all, moral equivalency was not an aspect of my question, yeah? Okay. You mentioned a thing about things being biologically determined, and the example that you gave was about crime and black people, yeah. So all I'm simply doing is identifying a behavior pattern, which we can see is consistent through history. It's like mass genocide, enslavement, and them kind of things there.
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah. So what's the fear? Let me give you the biggest one. What is the biggest fear of white guys? What is the biggest fear that the left have of the white patriarchy? Whites are not the strongest genetically. Black people are much stronger. Asian people are much more You see Asians winning almost all gymnastics in the future, right? So they're not the strongest. Are they smartest? No, they're not. Ashkenazi Jews are number one. Non-Westernized Indian clusters are number two. So they're not the smartest. So what is it? Is it how they move together? Do they dance well? No, they can't do Beyonce. Look at it. Whites have the deadliest combination genetic history of the perfect balance between IQ, testosterone, and hunter pack coordination.
Okay.
So when you say what is bad, what can Whitey do bad the most? When Whitey arms up and groups up, he doesn't fuck about.
Right.
History. He just slaughters everything and he wins. He wins.
Okay. Now,
right? So that's the truth, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
That admission is
that's the truth. That is the truth. Yeah.
Right? Let me. So following on from that, then, because you said something a while ago about black people or Africa in particular, not buying into the oppression narrative and the slavery narrative, but racial realism speaks that the solution from a racial realist point of view is to look into yourself and fix up yourself. Am I correct?
Absolutely on the money, man.
Right. Okay.
Because if you don't see the truth, you're lying to yourself, and you'll never.
Certainly. So based upon that, and based upon the fact that you have said, that as you said, when Whitey gets together, he don't mess around, innit? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That results in mass genocide, robbery of resources, mass rape of people. You know what I'm saying? Killing of babies. You know what I mean? And the creation of weapons of mass destruction.
It doesn't fuck about. Yeah.
Hold on. Is it a part of your far right? Racial realist narrative to tell white people then to fix up and stop robbing and raping and murdering all over the planet and creating weapons of.
Whitey's had that brainwashed in his head for the last 58 years. That's not Whitey's problem. Whitey's not thinking about that. You guys and everyone else is. So, Whitey's problem is Whitey's problem is he thinks, and I know, he's about to get run out of the board and he's getting increasingly upset. He's not thinking we're colonizing everyone anymore.
By the Asians. But my point is that the mass rape and robbery and murder, committed by Whitey. This is what we're thinking of at the moment. And so you're saying that it should be it's incumbent upon the individual and the group as a collective to fix themselves up. Yes. And so if we could identify that mass rape, I'm not going to insult your intelligence by asking you, but I'm going to assume that generally speaking, that you will find things like mass rape, especially if it's unprovoked, you know what I'm saying, mass robbery, mass murder, as something that is reprehensible, it's wrong. So in that context, is it a part of the far right racial realism agenda to teach white people to stop being mass murderers and genocidal maniacs?
We don't want anyone to be genocidal maniacs.
No, hold on. That might be an opinion. And what I'm asking you is it a part of the new right, racial realism agenda, to go among white people of the world and tell them, listen, you're robbing from Africa, because like you said, Africa's being robbed, okay? So is it a part of the racial realism white people, what was it, new right? New right white agenda to tell your brothers and sisters, in places like Europe, you know what I'm saying, and America and Australia, to stop massacring people, stop robbing their resources, you know what I'm saying, and them kind of things there. Because it's all well and good telling black people. My final sentence. It's all well and good telling black people not to buy into an oppressive narrative, but I think it would go far further to tell white people not to massacre and rob and rape the planet in the way that they have been.
For a principle, 100%. But let me add this to you. Whitey has been programmed since the 60s with white supremacy. Whitey is brought up every day to tell his history in his school, say he is bad. Whitey is not worried about that. He's had about 60 years of saying, don't do it, right? It's not Whitey doing it, it's power doing it, right? The problem with Whitey is that's not what Whitey's thinking about. Whitey's thinking
what you say, it's not Whitey doing it, it's power doing it. So when it's black people, it's biologically determined, but when it's white people, it's this nebulous concept.
It's totally biologically determined. White people kick ass. Look at what Hitler did. Look at what Stalin does. Look at what Russian special forces do.
They don't kick ass, they murder women. This is the thing.
No, but that's what I mean. No.
One minute, bro.
1 minute. Just
I
1 second.
go somewhere now. Say if I go to Scotland right now, and I'm there, and there's another group of people there. But me and my friends, we'll rape their wife. We'll chop off their son's head. Yeah. So because we're on that level of savagery, that don't mean that we kick ass. It just means that them people they have a higher, they're more spirituality. They got more love in them heart. They ain't got so much wickedness, man. So when you got someone that's on wickedness,
okay, so that's a different thing, right? So
that's man, especially if the righteous man isn't aware of how wicked that man is.
Okay, that's
stabbed in his back. Yeah.
Okay,
So
I hear that, Raspect. I understand your point.
1 minute. They didn't come blazing guns saying, "Yo, Africa, it's a war." They didn't come with any honor. You understand? They came and pretended to be our friends. They shook their hands. They moved like sneaky weasels. Yeah. And then when they saw a gap, they snaked each one of us in a unified position where you had them go together in Germany and chop up Africa and choose the names and choose what they're gonna own of us. Yeah. So like this narrative that you push, yeah, it's so theological and just so much about the ideological points of views. It completely negates reality and history. You know what I'm saying? So I just have to push that out there and let ShakaRa carry on to give you that work. You get me? Big up Academic Screecher. I beg you put this up. Everyone like up the things as well, you know. All my G's, like up the show, share out the show. I'll be blazing fire right now. Yeah? Right.
Okay, so to carry on to your point as well. So if you look at that, I completely agree with you, Shaka. Of course there's a genetic race realistic description of all of them, right? It's the same for white stuff and everything. That goes without saying, because genes don't give a shit. If Whitey does this, if Indians do this, yeah. So when you to answer your question directly about the narrative, let me try to say again and again, that is not the you're trying to tell Whitey what he should think about. Whitey is not.
I'm certainly not. I'm not really interested in what Whitey thinks about. I my question was basically we're having a conversation, so conversation, I'm engaging the points that you're making. I have little interest in what Whitey thinks about. The reality is though that you made a statement, that when for as far as Africa and African people are concerned, that we have a responsibility to fix up ourselves and address the problems as we see fit, and we can agree on that point. And I'm saying my only issue is on the other side of the spectrum. It would seem logical that if Africans are able to stop being oppressed and exploited in certain kind of ways, then white people are also capable of stopping the oppression and the robbery and the raping and the murder and these kinds of things. These things are possible. So it would make sense to me that there would be, as a part of your racial realism agenda, that a part of the platform now, not an obscure, we can agree on a point in a conversation, but that as an essential part of the platform would be, listen, white people, we have been exhibiting this behavior for over 2,000 years, and we need to stop. Because it's not helping the planet, it's not creating anything productive in society, and blah 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 blah. It would seem to me that it would be based upon your analysis, based upon the ideas that you're putting forward, that it's the responsibility of white people to fix themselves up and stop mass murdering people on the planet. I
wouldn't disagree with any of that at all. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So when we see you at Speakers Corner next, can we get a speech like and a full manifesto from the new right point of view, telling white people to stop mass murdering and raping?
So what I was intending to do is it's going to take 8 or 9 kind of talks, is to first walk around all the 3 points of the triangle of our trichotomy, look at all the problems that occur between race, between gender, between income, between money. And once you put that all together, the final bit I see of it is going to be, what is the future of the one world scenarios? And there's three or four core scenarios. And to address your point particularly there, all of those scenarios you've talked about, those, there are others too. There's the same problems. Just forget race for a second. Same problems between men and women. We're going to have a set of templatized proposals where you think, hey, what is it that we need to address in ourselves, in our own communities, between men and women, between the young and the old, between black and white. And
Ralph and Shakara. Yo. Give me one sec. And just to let you know, Raj wants to say something still, sir.
I've got one more point to make, but I'll give way in it. You know what I mean? You
got one more point. Make it one more point, still, and then Roger, what you saying? You reckon it's gonna be a banger?
I got a quick point. Yeah, that's a quick one.
Hold on. Raz. Let me find out from ShakaRa. We saying, see your next point. Is it going to be a I don't even know what Raj want to say, but obviously he's been on the panel for time. He ain't said nothing. You get me?
Okay,
I want everyone to get like a nice.
It can wait if you prefer to bring somebody else in right now. You know, still. I can wait. Yeah.
What you saying, Raj? What's your thing? What you want to see?
Yeah, because I just joined around 10 minutes ago, and how are you doing, everybody? Big up, big up,
Cut the small
POE
talk.
and
Cut the small
Leon.
talk.
Oh, come on, man. Let me do my little small talk as well. All right, so what it is that I've spoken to Ralph at the park, and I don't really know him that well, but I've spoken to him a few times, and we do agree on a lot of things. I don't agree. I mean, I'm not going to lie, Ralph. I have watched a couple of videos because Raspect was saying a few things, and I thought, oh, no, I don't really believe it. But I am a little bit shocked about your kind of theory on race. Your understanding of race. So I do agree with one thing. I am not somebody that denies there are separate races. I do believe there are different races. Like you have obviously you have people from India, you have people from here, and we look phenotypically different. And even some races behave slightly differently. Like in India, there's no doubt. If you go to the Punjab, the Punjabis are extremely more, much more kind of vocal, much more bigger. And they actually behave differently from other parts of India, just because of the way India was invaded. So over a period of time, we become like that. But I don't believe that certain races are fixed in a kind of a genetic, kind of like fixed genetically in terms of intelligence and stuff like that. I just think that because of environments, poverty, and stuff like this, certain groups of people are probably not doing as well. But do you believe that this isn't to do with poverty and world circumstances, but to do with genetics?
Yeah, right. So you missed all that stuff. It was early, obviously late. I was late too. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah. So we know from science, it's not just politics.
Ralph, your mic sounds mad echoey, and I don't know where I'm going still.
Okay, is this better now? No. 1 second, man.
Sounds like it's the room you're in or something. You're far from the mic or something.
Just a second. I was trying to get a sandwich in. Is this better?
Yeah. You shouldn't be in this time of the night still.
Yeah, sorry about that. No, right. So we spoke about this earlier. Forget politics for a second. If you just look at it scientifically, we know that everything, and I'll just go back to example, everything is a percentage genetic and a percentage environmental. So let's talk about India for a second, because you'll know that, and any of the Deshi boys in the audience will know. Punjabis are gregarious, right? Punjabis are really fun. They're very social, right? Punjabis are very skilled at moving, dancing. Bengalis are very shy. Bengalis are quite timid, right? Southis are very introspective, right? They're very quiet and inwards. So, but the point is that these have genetic differences just within a cluster of genes. And anyone in India will know the difference between a Gujarati, a Bihari, a Bengali, right? Over some
I
can
can
see that there are differences.
And I agree with you on that. This is why I'm going to the Indian subcontinent, because it's less controversial.
Of course, easy. But you can see that within India, right? And then if you go towards Rajasthan, you go towards suddenly you're talking about Punjabi, then you're talking about Peshwa blood, suddenly moving to Afghani blood, and you see militant now, you see militant Muslim, Arabic genes expressing themselves. So you go up the Punjab, you start heading into hardcore.
Cool. I'm saying. I you still right. You just came on the thing. You want to say something?
Too much brown talk, is it?
Yeah, this is the Black Power Hour. It's the Black Power Hour right now.
All right. Remember, race realism will also affect people from the Indian subcontinent. Because are you saying that?
I want to hear that. But I choose one. Wait a minute, man. What I'm saying is that ShakaRa was. You only had one more point to make. You had 3 points. So I wanted to finish this thing. Then we can go on to your concerns. You get me?
Yo, ShakaRa, can I slip that in just before you?
No homo.
Nah, definitely. Yeah,
pull up. Go.
Hey, listening. Yeah. So what I'm gonna say is, see, like even the far right, the left, no matter, they're all in agreement on one thing. Yeah, Hitler was a savage. He was a criminal. All of these things. Yeah, they don't say, Hitler was kick-ass. Yeah, he kicked those Jews' asses. He was a kick-ass. We don't describe him in these ways, innit? You know what I'm saying? So it just shows the hypocrisy You know what I'm saying? Within the mentality at hand here, where that Ralph is presenting, to me personally, from what I can see with my two eyes, I'm a first eye as well, yeah. And then definitely, one of my brethren said that Ralph sounds a bit like he's from BBC World Services still. So I had to pass on the message. But go on, ShakaRa.
Yeah. No, my next thing is not even a question. I just want to make an analysis of what I've heard so far, and I'd like to just point out that according to this racial realism new right philosophy, that Black people, African people, have no agency. They have no contribution to the world. We are simply objects, of European people, European ideologies, and we are objects of the European advancement of civilization, of their civilization in the world. And this is why you can have terms like right or left, and Black people are seen as having to move between one or the other. You know what I mean? That the idea, for example, that the reason why Black people are in the position that we are in is because the white left have been giving us all this stuff, since the 1960s. All this stuff that we've been given, we've been given so much stuff that we've been left poor. This is a ridiculous, oxymoronic, what's it called, kind of ideas that we are expected to accept based upon this ideology, and so we are we don't create ourselves, we don't contribute anything to our self-development or the forward progression of the planet. We are simply products of the white left or the white right, and so my only point really here is that this is just symptomatic of the whole general ethos of European white supremacy in general, you know what I'm saying? This is how they relate to the world, The flow of the world is based upon great white philosophers and great white politicians and great white scientists. And so all the entire planet can be, dissected and compartmentalized into things like first world, second world, and third world, based upon whatever the white man said after World War II and how he divided up the planet. And so all these things are necessary. The reality is, as far as it relates to the political and economic issues that were raised here, is that the continent of Africa, was apportioned up for the sake of European domination of the planet and to serve the economies of Europe, making Africa an entire continent, of enslaved people, with resources, that are used to benefit the colonizer and the enslaver. What happened with World War II is that the Africans finally, basically, well, I say finally, but in that time, were basically waging a revolutionary war. And the white man had to rearrange. And the white man had to rearrange his program in order to accommodate the fact that he was about to lose that war. And that's why you get people like Harold Macmillan with the winds of change is blowing across the continent of Africa. And so what he was basically doing was sending a message out to the Western world that we've got to change our tactics. We've got to change up the tactics, because they knew that Africa was on the verge of a self-determining, liberating agenda that would have liberated the continent and basically bankrupt the entirety of Europe and America, because all of them rely on African resources, land and ingenuity to be able to survive. This is what was happening. Okay, so what they did is they reconsolidated and imposed what they called neo-colonialism on the continent, which meant that they could continue to siphon off African resources for the benefit of Europe. And every now and then they revive a program. This is where I kind of agree with what this guy is saying, in the sense of the fact that prior to that time, race and racialism was the thing. Following that time, they sold us this racial denial dynamic. So we're all the same. There's no such thing as race. And what that meant is that they could come to Africa with their soft power, which is their cultural power. And so white people in South Africa now can be African, and them, all them kind of things there, right? And so basically that idea, is what they've been pushing on the world since then. When you see the new right come up now, they're just basically the vanguard. Just in case the rest of this stuff don't work, the new right will come with this ideology that Ralph is pushing right about now, and basically reinstitute the raw kind of primitive accumulation that we saw in the 1800s and prior to them when they were dealing with slavery and so on and so forth. Yeah. So let's not be bamboozled by these things. Yeah. That we have our own self-made liberation ideologies as Black people, and we should study them and understand that we're not a tennis ball to be kicked between white left and white right. Yeah, we have our own center, and we should look at things from our own center. I'll leave it there, and if there's anything later on, if I'm still on the call, I'll come back and say something. You know what I mean? Peace.
Can I just respond quickly to that, though, just to be fair? So I think I completely agree with the principle and spirit of everything you've said. And I think the only thing that pivots it for everything I'm trying to put the message is it's not the right, new right, or the new white right for the Black. It's the new Black right that you're lacking. That's the difference. That's it.
Hey Ralph, I saw you was in the comments saying that that's the oppressor narrative or something.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? So what I'm saying is, so if you look at what ShakaRa said is, and I said it very eloquently, which is quite nice, is you're still saying that, you know, Black independence from whitey, be it white left or white right, is what you want. You want independence from whitey, be it left or right, right? And what I'm trying to say is that's not the point of the new right. You want a new Black right. You still have to play in the world.
Yeah.
You're not going to have somewhere to play alone. It's not saying take whitey's right. The left-right dynamic and the power dynamic applies to everyone.
Yeah. So
you can't walk away from the game and make a new game. There's no new game. You can either lose in the go. There's only one board.
No,
you're playing on the same.
That's the way
board.
you're setting it. You don't create the.
There's only one. There's only one board.
Like the thing is, yeah, at the end of Hidden Colors, yeah, the brother talks about like in basketball, the way Michael Jordan, he changed the game. You get me? Like when it comes to 1 minute,
the game rules are the same.
Yeah, we literally changed the game. When they think you're setting the chessboard, yeah, and you're trying to tell man what rules man have to play by. Man can't tell man what rules man can play by. You know what I'm saying? So what you're calling the far right, to me, I think you're talking about Pan-Africanism, ShakaRa.
No, but he's not, because the problem with that is that Pan-Africanism recognizes the existence of an enemy and somebody who's attempting to colonize you, and so he's fine with it, unless we identify the fact that these people have wicked intentions. Yeah, so it's all good, do what you want to do, but don't identify Europe as wicked and evil and terrible and oppressive and mass murdering and genocidal and them kind of things there. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? That's what man is saying. But the new right can identify criminality among Black people. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? You know, but the Black liberation ideology can't identify mass murdering tendencies among white people. This is the framework that Ralph is outlining for us at the moment.
Yo, are you listening?
Yeah.
Yo, to the fire lions out there, yeah, to my biggest haters, because I know sometimes I get passionate, yeah, I start screaming, I don't articulate my point, but you can't say, my brother ShakaRa, I can't lie, he's articulated the thing perfectly for a baby to understand. Because sometimes Ralph talks for like some next man to understand. I can't lie, but like man's articulated it perfectly. So I just want to see the fire lines take over the chat. Man, like Chucky, yeah. But let's get some fire lines in there for ShakaRa. Covered, you don't know. I think this is my first time on content over everything. You get me? So shout content over everything. You get me? First time on the live.
There's 217. Raspect. There's 219 people watching at 2:23. Sorry, 12:23 in the morning. Yeah. And there's 50 likes. So people them like up the thing. Like up the show content over everything, some love. You know what I mean? Show content over everything that you appreciate what he's doing for man. You know what I'm saying? Man worked hard today trying to bring you the super duper, you know what I'm saying? Like supreme service out here, you know what I mean? Didn't quite work, but he tried, didn't it? So press the like button, you know what I'm saying? And make sure that content over everything gets spread around the world. Innit? So all the brothers and sisters, them, it's about 6 o'clock in America right about now. And you know, they can come home from work and you know, tap into the thing, innit? You don't know.
Yo, shout out everyone that's putting these fire lines in there. Shout out Mr. Rax, you took my lighter, G. You took my lighter. Shout out you. Yeah. Shout out Anonymous, Chucky, Benedict, Goddess, Getty, and Ezra. Yeah. Fred, Raz. You know what I'm saying? Everyone in the building. Man like Chemo. Yeah. Press up that like button. Let's get that to 100. Like, even the man that hate me, you're good because this is content over everything. Get me? You can still come and dislike my team tomorrow. Yeah, but like this thing, my man is unbiased, he keeps it cool, keeps it calm, nice with everyone, and he can create a platform which can get.
I'm biased too. I've got biases too. I try not to let them show though. You get me? I try not to let them show my things too.
I know your thing.
What I'm saying, yeah. Hey Raj, what you saying? You want to say your thing now, or what? Ralph, did you want to respond to ShakaRa?
I think I've already reiterated the points. I think we keep having conversations. What I'm going to do is for content is if Leon's up for it, I'll send a bunch of reference materials and crap like that whenever you want content. We'll put that on to maybe the top of one of the when you post this shit. Then people can look at it themselves, look at the arguments themselves, and then that's more conversations and people can choose their own particular position. I'm not here to make anyone pick a particular position. I'm just articulating our position because our position is the one I've been involved with for a long time, and that's why we have Trump Brexit. And
what I'm looking.
COE, I'll talk after you if you can.
Yeah. What I'm looking to do in terms of these shows here is if people want to bring source material and make presentations and all of that, I'll say we incorporate them into future upcoming shows, innit? Like up the levels, man. So it'll be more like a debate where one person presents their case, do your little slideshow thing. Everybody that sits down and listens, then the next person comes along, does the same thing, and then we go back and forth. You get me?
Sounds good. Yeah. Then we can put stuff up, and then people can break it down, and then we can talk about that. So everyone can look at the same diagrams. People can look at the same stuff. So it's not a case of people just saying, "Hey, what's this? What's that?" Right? Sounds good, boys.
The man can just refute man live. You get me? Because it's a long thing. Still, just taking it on to look at. Like man's got to do homework and all of that. Like, people out there trying to enjoy themselves. You get me? So
yeah.
Yeah. Say nothing. All right, cool. Raj, your all time right. Now still.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to talk about brown people a little bit. So don't get too upset, everybody. The reason why I want to talk about that is just because it's something that you are from. You said one of your parents is from South India, and they're obviously if they're from South India, they're going to be quite dark. And so how have you come to this? Because the thing is, when I listen to you, can I just ask you one quite controversial question? Do you believe white people are genetically more intelligent than every other race? Or let's just say intelligent than other races, most other races?
No, the data on that is crystal clear. The number one most
from the bell curve. You put on the bell curve.
Yeah.
All right.
So the number one is crystal clear. Number one's most intelligent, hands down, is Ashkenazi Jews.
Yeah.
Number two, from the last data point that's about 60 days old, with IQ of 108 on average, is Indians who are not from India, who don't live in India. After that, you get the Japanese. Whitey is number 4.
Yeah, but people from India who are in India have an average IQ of like 80.
85,
85. So if it was genetics, then they would still have an IQ of 85 no matter where they went.
No, but this is one of the biggest IQ controversies because India itself is just third. But there's at least 3 different types of Indian genetics going on. So Southeast Dravidians are not genetically connected to anyone in North India. Right?
No. Yeah, I know that.
So the combination of genetics seems to have been that those ones have escaped. And so the President Royal Academy, the most prestigious scientific role in England, is a South Indian. Yeah. So Indians abroad are running Google Tech.
Pause. Sorry to come in the news. That's brown chat still, but you see the Dravidians? I swear, ain't they the ones that look black?
Yeah. They're a separate. They're actually a different race from the North Indians.
And Raj can understand that.
They're the ones that look slightly African.
But this some of them are darker than Africans.
We say rap. That's where you come from, yeah.
Yeah,
but Raj, but everyone's on the chat. We clear this one up one part. Raj, when I first met him, he said, "Where are you really from?" And Raj is Indian, Punjabi, and everyone in the park is triggered. Is he half white? Raj can understand. I don't look like an average Indian because something's wrong with me. That's because my dad is black and my mom is white.
When you say
it
wrong,
looks like the average.
Hold on, Ralph. You said there's something wrong with you. Hold on. There's nothing wrong with you. It's just who you are.
I don't think this.
I think some of your language seems to make it out as if anything that is from a non-white is kind of like, because I remember heard you saying that you said that people are from a particular race like Sweden are stoic, but Indians are more animated. And so, I mean, I get where you're going in terms of there are different traits of different people from around the world. But when it starts getting quite, I don't know, disturbing is when people say, all right, your intelligence is fixed, no matter what you do, because of your race, you cannot improve. But that's kind of debunked by the Indians, who in India the average IQ is 85.
No, it isn't debunked.
But when they go over to the West, because of the better living of standards, they then can raise their IQ to around 105, 106. So can you not see that maybe it's to do with also a large proportion is definitely going to be to do with your environment. So when you're in the third world and the education system is terrible, you're trying to just feed yourself and you haven't got time to try and educate yourself, you are obviously going to be at a much, let's say, a disadvantage than somebody from Europe who is now in the first world through hundreds of years of maybe colonization and bringing wealth back. So I'm just trying to question you in terms of, because you believe that the Indians are, because I remember you also saying that 3 of the top richest people within the UK are actually Indian, which is true. I think they're in. So how do you explain this phenomenon of somebody going from India and raising their IQ by 25 points?
I understand the question. So what I say is, there's a very interesting effect, and there's two, possibly 3 effects going on concurrently. One effect is, what is the change of IQ over time within a population or a set of people? And everything shows that IQ fundamentally will regress to the mean in most normal conditions. Then there's the question of what happens when you get eugenic mating jumps within IDs, and what happens when you take people in a different types of environment. There are no studies I'm aware of in genetics today that say you're going to change your IQ with or without what's called the Flynn effect. Have you looked it up? Fundamentally, so fundamentally, there's an IQ shape as what you are. The Indian anomaly, there are other types of anomalies like that. They're not just India. Other kind of quirk.
Right, so let me ask you another question.
But the difference for race and IQ is fixed.
Yeah. All right, so let me ask you another question. So in America, you have the black population that has been, their ancestors are slaves. And so obviously with that oppression, it's going to take a long time for their descendants to pull themselves up and get to the same stage as their oppressors. Now, what's happened is that Nigerians have migrated to America in quite large numbers, and they are outperforming the white people and outperforming every other group. So how do you explain how do you explain someone from Nigeria going over to America if they were genetically fixed?
That's easy, Raj. Let me explain that. I can explain that, Raj. So the problem you have is there's 2 things going on, and you can,
because they have some of the, if you look at the thingies, there's actually friction between the indigenous black population, the Africans, that come over because they're performing so well. And it's kind of causing a little bit of friction because there are much more. The Nigerians are literally one of the top performing.
So that's quite easy to understand that effect, right? And it applies not just to Nigeria. Nigeria is quite unique and special because Nigeria has, I think, the first or second highest subcluster IQ in Africa. But that's not the thing that's causing that phenomenon you're seeing. The phenomenon causes Nigeria has a population, like 190 million right now, I think. So when you look at a bell curve distribution, it is the top percentile factor of that curve. So there are millions of really smart Nigerians. Remember, an IQ is an average, but it's also a curve. So the top end of that curve, there are lots of absolute numbers of really smart Nigerians. And obviously, the really smart Nigerians are going for success and power. So they're heading to the US, they're heading to MIT, they're heading to Stanford. Of course they are, just like the Indians are. Because there's 1.4 billion Indians, that top 1% of IQ is a large number of people. Because Nigeria has 200 million people. So just the top 1% is millions of very smart Nigerians. But if I take the Nigerian IQ as a distribution curve, it's lower than the white IQ.
Yeah, but this is I understand where you're coming from in terms of
just science, man.
You can, hold on, I know, but the way it sounds to me when I'm listening, and I get on with you, right? But it sounds like
good chance.
It sounds like you're trying to say that there are groups of people in the world that through the genetics, which has got nothing to do with them, are predetermined to always be at the bottom. So this is the biggest crisis, right? So the biggest study and the biggest threshold is, right, if you look at the whole data, the biggest data set held by this is the United States Army.
And the United States Army found that an IQ of about 83 or 84 is the lowest IQ in which a person, even under army conditions, we have to be told what to do, can be of any economic value. So the biggest crisis of the planet moving forward, as we move to 10 billion people, is the bottom 20, 30% of people born of all types of colors are going to have very low IQ.
Yeah, I've heard because I've listened to Richard Spencer and I've heard these arguments before, and I've come to the conclusion that I think it's wishful thinking to a certain degree from these people to try and think that they're better than everybody else. I do believe there are different races. I'm not somebody that goes around and says there's no races. I do believe each race has a particular, like you can see a difference between a Punjabi and a Gujarati and a Bengali. You can see the difference just in the way they look, the way they behave. And we have a very high temperament in terms of our temper. We make good soldiers and stuff like that. But in terms of intelligence, that's a totally separate issue.
Right. Let me kill that taboo once and for all. Here's how that taboo, that's why it's a taboo. If we have gone through racial, like you accept, evolutionary divergence for the last, let's broadly call it 500,000 years, the scientific proposition that racism just smashes is if your body, your skin, your color, if every part of your body was evolved differently, why is the mind off topic? Because you're conflating a genetic difference with a moral judgment. You're saying because this person is not as smart as me, they are lesser than me. That is a moral judgment. The scientific fact is the Bangladeshi woman who I go for the last 6 years to my shop in Sainsbury's, she can't have an IQ of 80. That's how bad she is at what she does. It doesn't make her.
I know, but I did find that a little bit disturbing when I heard you.
Yeah, but it doesn't make her less than me. You have to accept the realism.
But can I ask you a question? Why did you refer to her as? Why couldn't you just choose a white person working in the local shop? Why did you have to say Bengali?
Because I live because there's almost no one who's white where I live now.
And how do you know that this individual isn't going to some university and just doing a side job?
Because I can speak to her in Bengali. I've watched what she's done for 6 years, and she tries to. So IQ, Raj, people get all upset about IQ. IQ is just a what is called a G-loaded factor test with 14 pieces. These pieces are. Bear with me a second, Raj. Bear with me a second. So the spatial coordination, ability to move your hands quickly, be able to use fast rap lyrics, these are all components of IQ. Yeah. If I watch this woman in Safeway for almost 6 years doing the same job, repetitive road, and she's still shit at it, that just means her IQ is not suited for it. It does not mean she's a lesser person than me.
Yeah, all right.
There's a big difference. If you jump to the conclusion that therefore she is lesser, that's not my statement. That's your conclusion. Right.
Yeah, so I do agree that not everyone's born equal, but we should all be treated equally. But I don't see that on race. I've met people from all different races of highly intelligent. Correct. And I've met people of all different races completely thick. Yeah. And I know people are going to say I'm one of them. But the thing is that the thing is, I know what you're saying, and you're saying that it doesn't have no negative. You're not going to see yourself as better, but human beings are very, very, I'm going to say nasty species at some point. That's why I'm misanthrope. And they will see these people if you say that they're not capable of doing better as being lower than them, and so they will have.
Raj, it's worse than this.
Which is why you had Nazi Germany.
But here's my position. I was saying it's worse than that. If you morally deny the reality, you're morally neglecting your chance to do something good. By pretending that people are equal when they're not, is denying the truth to do something good. So I want to see what are we going to do for the 500 million people by 2050 who will never be able to do a job with an IQ of 90.
All right, so
I want to accept that.
Can I ask you a question? All right, so during ancient Egypt, when you had black, maybe darker skinned people, you had in India, you had Harappan civilization. During this time when they were building pyramids, building structures and cities, the white people were living in like mud huts and caves. Or they were living at a much lower level than what you would consider to be civilized. So how do you, I mean, I'm not saying this is what I believe, but how did they go from, in your opinion, within 2,000 or 3,000 years?
That's a beautiful story.
Being the people that are at the bottom of the ladder to
Yeah.
then for you
It's a
to say
beautiful
that
story,
they're
Raj.
top of the ladder.
I'll send all you guys links. It's a beautiful story. So you're right. So
Savagery, slavery, colonialism, all of that. Ain't no,
right. So the genetic story, Raj. The answer to that story is
Raj, this is why I say this affiliating with the West thing, yeah, can be dangerous, and you're seeing it in Ralph because it's beautiful for him because his allegiance is to the West. So
no, it's not. My allegiance is to the first world.
Yeah, but I just need to understand how they turn around their IQ.
Okay,
because-
so Raj, to answer your question, here's the answer.
Yeah.
Right? So if you look at a
Yeah.
genetic history, you're right. So what is civilization? Civilization only happened 11,000 years ago after the last ice age. When did we? What does civilization mean? Technically, it means we stopped and we grew food. We went from hunter-gatherer into food growers. If you look at where the Egypt, look at the great cultures of Mesopotamia, Babylon, the Andes, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro,
all non-white, all
non-white,
non-European.
and we see non-white deliberately. So deliberately picking only non-white great achievements and cultures. Then nothing much happened for the 2,000 years for Christ, but then something very magical did happen. And you can take a race judgment or you don't have to. Over 800 years, 64 generations of white people changed their genes. After the end of that change of the genes, by about the 13th to 14th century, that group of genetic people created what we call the modern world through the age of reason.
Yeah, but I'm sorry, I've got
not because they're better, not because they're better, not because they're.
I've got to interject. I know you're saying stuff in a very. Let me just say, you're using sophistry to kind of prove your point. I'm asking you a quite simple question: how did the white Europeans, who during the time of ancient Egypt, the Harappan civilization, Mesopotamia, go from being at the bottom to the top?
And I'll tell you the answer is by 14.
Because how did look, their IQ was lower? Because by your logic, it would be that their IQ was lower. That's why they were at the bottom. Yeah, if you was to use your logic, because you're saying
Absolutely.
right now, the people at the bottom is because of their IQ.
And you want the answer, Roger? I understand the question.
So hold on, let me just finish it. So if their IQ is fixed now, but 4,000 or 5,000 years ago, the white people at the bottom and the rest of the people at the top, then were their IQs fixed then? And if they were fixed, how did they bring them up?
Okay, so let me answer your question. There's two parts of your question. Let me answer both of them separately, right? How IQ and how things change over time is just evolution. How do you measure the evolutionary change? You can only have a child over a generation, right? So if you look at the generation size of one person or one family at that point, if you look at the data, there were approximately this period of time which you're asking me the question, about 800 years worth of genetic changes by generation to generation to generation.
How? No, I'm asking you how. You're just
okay. First I'm saying so that's the mechanism. And what happened if you look at the genetic record is the top single factor that changed everything was the killing of violent people. Violent people from the Middle Ages in all the European records from Italy, Germany, France were executed.
That don't even make no sense. But
when you execute the top end of your gene pool, you have a rapid cumulative effect on creating a non-violent. I can give you guys all the studies and records, right?
Ralph, there's a contradiction in what you're saying.
Go on.
Killing is a violent act.
No, murder them. They murder by hang them, prison sentence.
Yeah, but those are still acts of violence.
The executioners commit suicide afterwards.
Yeah, social violence, not organized political violence, not people killing each other. So if someone was a thief, they killed him. If someone was a robber, they killed him.
Can I just ask him about violence, Robert? Because I hear this rhetoric that black people are violent and other races are. And you know, white people have committed. I mean, if you look at all the serial killers, because I know it sounds a bit crazy, but I'm into serial killers in the sense that I like looking at them. I've never found a black serial killer. But there have been some absolutely crazy. Hold on, let me just finish here. So there's been some crazy serial killings and some of the worst murders, like by individuals, like mowing down 100 people and stuff like that. Wow. And they come mainly from white people. So you have a guy in Las Vegas shooting over 120 people.
Yeah. School shooters in the US.
So I want to know from you: are these people civilized barbarians, and the black people or people of color, they're just savage barbarians? Because they're both. They're both
okay, so I'll answer that.
One is in a much more savage way, though, in much larger numbers, and taking time. And so if you look at Jeffrey Dahmer, he actually took people, drilled their heads, put acid in it, and then he wanted to make them into zombies. You had another guy, John Wayne Gacy, who for 30 years was getting little boys, dressing up as Father Christmas, and then chucking them underneath his house and burying them, and he got away with it. Because I think personally, because he was a white guy in his middle ages, they didn't go for him. But then you have somebody in, say, what you might classify as the hood, and they've shot one person, and then they're the savages.
Okay,
I mean,
so
how do you
to answer your question,
one second, please. One second. I'm not interrupting you. I just want to make sure that this gets shouted out because we've got a policy of this on these chats. But I don't know who Nelson Evora is, but they've donated 200 of whatever that currency is. What currency is SEK? I don't know what that is.
Yeah.
Swedish kroner.
Swedish.
Right.
All right. So Nelson Evora.
Someone said in the chat that it translates to $25 or something like that. So.
Or $25.
One minute, Raj. 15, 20, 25. Those who get the joke.
Indeed, yeah. $25 to the fiber optic fund, isn't it?
All right, so Ralph.
Okay, I haven't got much longer, but hey, you got.
Raj, I want you to get back on it. I think, like, I think you've been around us too long. You've been on my platform too long.
I've always thought like this. This is not nothing to do with you guys.
I know, but are you listening? Everyone, press the like button though, because this conversation is a very good conversation. It's been that from the start. Content started the stream twice just to get up from you. You know what I'm saying? He contacted us all in our separate places. He put all the work in, fam. Yeah, so big up ShakaRa, one, yeah. Cause my brother puts in work. I can't lie. Content's been putting in work every Sunday. No days off for the last, when we first got there. No Sunday off. Yeah. So the least we can do right now is press the like button, family. And if you can, yeah, get involved in this jizya war. You big up weed smoker. I see my G's always. Get involved in the jizya war, or become a patron, or hit the Bentley fund. Yeah. And you don't have to do it now. Wait till your paycheck comes round. But put a little thing towards COE because he's out here mashing works.
Yeah. All right.
That's my family.
Okay.
So before I kick, can you hear me? Before I kick, I'm just going to say this, right? Of the whole IQ stuff and race intelligence, what we have identified is in the Americas, you might have some what you'll say low IQ African Americans and there's high IQ African Americans. And you might say they might be average. But we've said that Nigeria was right about the 70s in IQ or 60s, and then when Nigerians went to America, they went past the hundreds, right?
No, that's never happened.
So that's never happened, no.
No. One of the highest groups of individuals from the minorities are from Nigerians in Harvard and places like that.
Yeah,
but that's not because of IQ changing. That's because of the reason I gave you. Because there's 200 million Nigerians. So if you think of 10% of 200 million, it's 20 million. 1% is 2 million. There's 1% of very high IQ Nigerians because the 200 million of them are million high IQ Nigerians. Those are the people you're talking about.
So you're not seeing that those who fly to America get different opportunities and different.
No, what I'm saying is simpler than that. The high IQ Nigerians are leaving Africa and going to America. That's a problem both for Africa and for America.
I do agree there's a brain drain.
Yeah, that's what it is. There's no IQ variation.
Yeah,
I've got a question on that. Sorry.
Can I just finish the last question so we can go on? So yeah. I want to understand, because I've heard a lot of people from the race realists or people like Richard Spencer saying that black people in America are savages and they're killing each other. But if you look at some of the most brutal murders of rape and like
Raj, not to interrupt. I got the question.
Hold on, let me just finish. So so are you trying to say, are race realists trying to say that there is one type of murder which is civilized and one which is savage?
No. So
are they both just as savage as each other?
I'm just in the question. So sorry, otherwise I'm going to have to charge my battery. So I'm going to look at the laptop.
Yeah.
So no. So the question is, are there certain unique types of murders or classes of murders that are related to race? Of course there are. That's why you have a Jeffrey Dahmer. That's where that. The question when you say is one type of murder more savage is a purely subjective qualitative morality statement.
Hey, say right. Give me 2 seconds. The rebellion has started. Jizya Wars has started. Yeah, big up ShakaRa. Big up my sister Shani. Yeah, high IQ black creator Leon. Knocked up from your sister Shani. our Muslim sister, you get me, alhamdulillah, you get me, come on, give thanks to the most. Now, all of that, guys, love around there that you're being pushed.
Yeah, the thing is, yeah, right, I'd love to get you back on the marriage show.
We got the Punjabi, Mobile, or to be precise, Bilal is himself. You get me? Shout out the whole one squad, Rebellion. Are you listening?
Yeah, big up Shani and Mobile, most definitely. Respect for the donations. Come on, you have to get a mention straight from my mind. You get me anytime you're dashing P there still, so.
Yeah, can I just say one thing? The thing is that yeah, all right. So I look here. One thing I'm trying to question Ralph because I want to understand the meaning. But I have heard some stuff on your side as well about white people being more kind of inclined to savagery to a certain degree, and I think you can't fight, you know, prejudice with prejudice, because throughout the world people have been killing each other and being savage to each other for thousands of years, including in India, where most of the killings for 800 years were from fellow brown people of other brown people. So I don't want to go down that road, but I also don't want to go down the road of Ralph, where it's like, all right, black people have shot someone somewhere, and that's savage. But when somebody brings out a machine gun and starts mowing down people in a school, that's more of a kind of a civilized.
I've never said that. I never said that.
I'm not saying that you said that, but it kind of feels like that, not from you, but from people from the right. I'm not saying you.
No, that's not what a race realist will say. That's you saying that.
All right. So yeah, I mean, maybe I've got that from people like Richard Spencer when I've listened to them.
That's right. Richard Spencer is like he's a front man for the TV. He likes the look of his own face and his voice. He's not the data.
So what do you? Are your kids mixed as well? Then, if you've got children, I'm assuming they are.
We're about to have one, but they will be German and Indian. So yeah.
All right. So, I mean, how do you see your Indian side then, the South?
I love my Indian family, a South Indian man. So Raj, you'll understand. I have a very large extended family all over India, all around the world and stuff. They're like, yeah, I can speak 4 Indian languages. Can read.
You do know that people in India, but the people in India that you go to see, I mean, South India is very prosperous. They have a lot of IT down it, but the average IQ of India is only around 84, 85.
Yeah, because 1.4. Remember, people misunderstand averages and distributions. There's 1.4 billion.
I get the averages, yeah. And
there's tons of very smart Indian people.
Yeah. So I mean, in India it's so. I mean, if you go to India, I mean, you're shocked about how poor someone is and then how rich someone is. There is such a disparity.
I get that behavioral distribution functions you see in India is also genetic, right? At the height of the British Empire, only 50,000 Englishmen ruled 500 million people. So Indians allow that. Indians allow that. Right?
Oh, all right. So let me explain. I mean, that sounds like us Indians are little pussy holes here. No, sorry for the thing, but what happened is that certain parts of India, I mean, South India was conquered first, and they went upwards. And what it is, there was no such thing as India. So what they did was there's different princely states and different parts of India with different empires. And what they did, they just made them fight against each other. And so.
Those military tactics, yeah.
So then they would use the Indians to subjugate fellow Indians, and the reason they could do that is because of the history of hatred between them. So the Sikhs pretty much thought, screw it, we'd rather join the British than have the Mughal rule again. Do you understand? And so a lot of people start saying to us, "Oh, Sikhs are traitors." No, but for us lot, we joined the British because there was lesser of two evils, not because we was easily subjugated because we're Indians. We just made the smart choice for us at that particular time. Yeah. And the British
a good India stream would be nice because there's lots of interesting things about genetic race realism and all just related to India. But I'm not sure this is the forum for that. So,
I would actually like to talk to you if you want to on Sunday about because I've been talking about the caste system and whether there was an Aryan invasion of India.
There was.
Some people say it's a theory. And whether you believe in the caste system of there being, like the people at the top and then the people at the bottom in terms of the Dalits and people all at the top.
That'd be a fun chat, man. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, they used some of that through, the Nazis were very interested in that kind of.
I know very far right Indian people who are completely on the same side of race realism.
I know. If you look at India, there are loads of people. That's what I started trying to say to people on the panel. Indians can be just as racist or more racist than white people. This is not a white man's illness. It's everybody's illness.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Ralph, yeah, you know, you said that the highest IQ Nigerians are leaving to go to the West.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah, are they genetically predisposed to do so?
No, it's the top people are the ones who are going to be the ones who are most likely to succeed in any such thing, right?
But
So
is
the
it- is
top,
that- is
so
that-
the
is
same
that-
with Polish. The smart Polish people came here first.
Okay, so is that a result of genetic predisposition that the smartest
yeah.
people of any race go to the West?
The smartest people go up wherever the up is. Now more and more of them are going east because all the money up means just better. So more now all of them are going to the east. China is the #1 target too, right? Because all the growth and the money and the power and the success will be in China as the power goes east. So those people are going wherever the power is. It's always been traditionally the West.
Okay.
Now it's being shared by
Do
the
you
West.
think? Sorry to piggyback real quick, Shaka. I'm gonna let you come in still. Do you think that that they also are more likely to marry outside of their race as well?
Not necessarily. In-group preference, for especially if that's a third moral dimension of genetic preferences of A-type 1 kinship, that tends to be much more influenced by culture than money. So they're not, just because they get success doesn't mean they're going to marry white girls. They'll marry girls that are culturally closer. That seems to be the pattern. So Indians that get rich and the white don't marry white girls necessarily. They marry They marry successful girls. Yeah.
So I'm just identifying something for the audience here. That we've just got to a point whereby Ralph has accepted the existence of a social dynamic. Yeah. My point is that if the top IQ Africans, yeah, let's say Nigerians specifically, because that was the example that was given, are traveling to wherever the power is. Yeah, the power is a social dynamic. Okay, so if we're saying that the West is where power is, that means there's a social relationship between this country and whatever is considered the West and the other countries that are not considered the West.
Yeah.
And so, as a result of that social relationship, it is determining behavior. Yes, in other words, the behavior of traveling to wherever those opportunities are seen, seeking opportunity. Yeah. So so we've got to a point whereby we identify that social forces can influence behavior. I just want to identify that point because we were at a point before whereby man was telling us not to look at the social forces and them kind of things there. It's all genetic. Yeah. So we've got to that point. So there's a loophole in this. Yeah. When it comes to power dynamics somehow can seem to influence behavior based upon what Ralph is saying. Just want to identify that. We can move on.
Okay, so just a quick response to that, because I mean, not much time. It's yes and no. Yes, and that you're correct, but genetics is not 100%. It's always a percentage. So the express form of Nigerians is that percentage of their smart gene pool picks the behavior. Let's go where the power is. And you're right. The power system is a social dynamic. Essentially, it's genetic. The rest is social, right? So.
Yeah, my only point is that if power, which is a social construct, can influence people to travel to what they consider to be powerful nations, it can also influence people in terms of their poverty rate. It can also influence people in terms of their education or lack thereof. It can also influence people in terms of their the extent to which they hold on to and preserve their culture or do not. You know what I'm saying? So the point is that we can't, because all of these power is not a social dynamic that is exclusive to how one country relates to another. Yeah. There are various power dynamics within any society. Yeah, and
it's a balance. It's a totally right. It's always.
As a result of those social dynamics, people in that society, based upon the power social dynamics in that society, will respond according and will be influenced according to those social dynamics and those power dynamics. That's
absolutely. And that when I talked to Jedi and Raven and everyone that in the first part of our chat and stuff in Speaker's Corner, that's why I kept representing the philosophical mantra of the right, which is it is the will to power that changes things.
One sec. I just want to give a shout out to Chucky. Slap to the next £2 into the Benny Fund. Respect family. I'm gonna take that £2 and put some air in my tires. So yeah, just want to get a shout out. Still, Sea Lion gang, Wave gang. I don't know. Yeah, continue on, fam.
So just to rebuild that point, the historical intellectual heritage of that thought came from Schopenhauer to Nietzsche. It also is present in Hinduism, it's present in Taoism, it's present in many cultures. The idea that you can will, the world can be seen as will and representation. And you can change things by your will. And the will to power is what that source of that thing is. The Nigerian high IQs, they had the will to power to better themselves. The little girl in Afghanistan who's Taliban trying to blow her head away and not to go to school, she had the will to power.
Yeah, the difference is again
against the system, right?
Yeah,
against the Taliban, right?
No, that's cool. I appreciate that. The difference is with regards to the will to power, high IQ black people traveling to the West doesn't empower black people. Yeah, it doesn't
kills
seem to
Africa. Kills Africa, man.
Say again?
It's killing Africa.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Too many people leaving India and places, the high IQ guys are actually doing a disservice to their country. That's true.
So the point is that the will to power is actually disempowering.
So you lot go back then and let some people come over.
You're mad. I'm here now. Only if we get Punjab.
This is what I was gonna say. I think the major issue is the non-Africans in Africa more than the African traveling over here.
Hey, one second, another one. Yeah, respect to JK still. He put a message. Yeah, not. I think it's just not. Yeah. Not too many people being writing messages still. But he said £2. Do you ting them? Every time he makes a message, he says ting them in the man them. I don't know what he's talking about still, but yeah, respect for that. I don't know.
JK is trying to be street, I think.
Yeah. I'm gonna buy some noodles with that one still. Pot noodles or something.
Doing the thing, them, see?
Say again.
Keep doing the thing, them. Keep up the thing, them.
Yeah, I don't know which things he's talking about still. I don't know. So yeah, respect.
What kind of things am I talking about?
I don't know time for thing them.
Well, hey, if you guys have any last questions, I don't have very long, man. So what?
Hey, Ralph.
Content. Man, them are asking for the link still in the chat.
Who wants the link?
MA wants the link, and a couple others, I think.
Yeah.
And it's cool because I'm gonna have to roll soon as well. Still.
Yeah, say nothing. I don't know. Like I don't usually stay up this late as well myself. You get me, sir? The man will start rolling out, fam. The show I got lock off, you know. Straight.
Yeah.
We can continue on the next time.
Hey, thanks for this. You're gonna lock it off. You know what I'm gonna do?
You roll on. You're gonna roll. You're gonna continue. Yeah, you on this marathon thing, and you're trying to do the 24-hour thing.
I would take the conversation if these are about that war shit.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Nah, I would take the marathon to the bedroom still, you know.
Yeah, you're bully. My man already tapped out as well.
Who's that?
Rap Raven tapped out. Scattered Man tapped out.
Yeah, peace to Rap Raven, Scattered Man for coming through. Done though.
Yeah.
Hey, so, hey, what you hey, Afro Man Raf, what you saying, fam?
Yeah.
You in the building? You want to add in anything before Ralph cuts off? What you saying, Ralph? You looking to lock off on the light?
Yeah, I was just going to say, but I've lost minutes, so I might take a few more questions in the live chat and stuff, and then sometimes it's good to end it on a decent thingy. And then if there's any more questions or links, then I'm happy to provide all the links, right?
Yeah, I just want to.
I'm putting that. Why are you like doing?
Can I just ask Ralph a question again? Just one question.
Yeah, man.
Do you want a white ethno Europe? I mean, I know somebody who's on the right. Most people want to keep Europe as let's just say culturally European or as white as possible. But how far do you want to take that? Are you willing to deport people? Because I think I heard something about deporting. I'll talk to you more about this on Manny's if you can come. We won't talk about race realism, but more about the future.
Okay, yeah, we're talking about 4% batteries. So I'm going to plug it.
Yeah, so
we can talk about ethno-nationalism and stuff,
but
different chat stream, but we can talk about ethno-nationalism, and models of nationalism.
But what do you want to do about certain immigrants in the country right now that people on the right might deem to be non-productive or kind of a drain on society?
It's not the right.
Ship them out.
It's not the right. 16. So this is a longer chat, guys. So I don't.
Yeah, we'll have a chat on that on Friday. So that's something I'd like to chat to you about. If you can jump on Manny's, we'll start the show from 8, and maybe you could jump on 9, 10, or 11 o'clock or something like that.
Yeah, I have a lot of data about immigration. So yeah, sure. All right, guys. Peace out, man. I'll go on the other chat.
Anyway, I should see you on Sunday. Anyway, can we talk about the car system then on Sunday?
Yo, what you saying, Ralph? You running for the Lions then, yeah?
I'm sorry. What's that?
You running for the Lions then? You don't want to come over to the Lions then?
No, mate, I'm usually the guy who goes around killing every lion I find.
Hey, Ralph,
I'm a lion hunter, man.
I understand after the move.
You see the hat?
Hey, don't get started, man. The hat's got. He was bragging about it's got it's got enemy blood on it. On you see that?
Trolling like a fucking champ, bro.
Hey, Ralph, before you cut, though, Afro Man Ralph's in the chat as well. Still, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to ask him before he cuts out. Still,
I'm shocked. Like, is this for real? Like, do you actually believe all the stuff you're spewing?
Do I believe the stuff I'm spewing? No, I'm a computer scientist. I just operate on data, man. The data tells me something.
All right, cool. I like scientists too. Is there any scientist that can back up what you're saying right now, though?
Oh yeah, thousands. Do you want? I can give you linked studies, and you can make up.
I don't want studies. I want actual scientists coming forward and saying, "Yeah, this is how the data."
Oh yeah, but the studies will all have authors, right? So all the studies will have authors,
and they interpret it like that as well. They've come forward and said, "Yeah."
But this is what we mean by it. You have to take your emotions out of it. The data is the data, man.
No, I know, but this isn't an emotion. Like, you know,
no, it's not the data. It's the narrative behind the data.
But that can only be talked about over the data, right?
Because you've got your own narrative. You're literally political narrative, and you're literally ignoring history, and you're literally like
but the point about that, whatever you talk about.
You're talking about black violence. You're not talking about white violence in the world of white supremacy.
I don't rude here. I don't rude back. We've got about 4% or 3% battery here. Let's do a different show, and we can just talk pure economic data, and we can talk slavery, oppression, colonialism, plants, sugar corn flames, all that over data. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all cool. And over facts. But sometimes it's not just facts. Like the genocide, I don't need the data for the genocide in Australia or the genocide in America to know that it's
let's have a data party. Let's bring our data to the party, and then we can all look at the data like Leon suggested, and then we can all go, let's have a little, but that's a longer session.
Yeah, there was one thing you said, and you said basically that a woman who's doing a job right and she's not able to do it right for the next 10 years, that means that she's got a low IQ. Is that what you?
No, what I'm saying is much more precise than that. If you plot IQ is the single biggest predictor after conscientiousness of what job you have in your life. So you have to have an IQ of 120 something to be a particle physicist. But to do manual rotation job types, like being a checkout counter, you can do it with an IQ of up to 75, 80, 85, 90. If you have an IQ of 45, you'd be considered mentally disabled. So the woman in my Sainsbury's checkout with an IQ of 70 something will never be able to do more than that in her life. And my problem or my moral concern is in the next 20, 30 years, we'll have up to 500 million people with that IQ.
But
you can't pretend that IQ doesn't exist. Right?
But are you basing the IQ on being able to perform a specific role? Or
That's what IQ means. IQ means there's only 14 dimensions of things you can do. And IQ measures how able you are to do those things. That's all IQ is.
So someone can't get better over time.
So, for example, I've asked you to multiply numbers really quickly right now. If there are 300 people watching, different people will all multiply the numbers at different speeds. Some of them will get it wrong.
Yeah, but some will over practicing, they will get better, right?
You can't change IQ.
Yeah, but Ralph, let me just say that I don't disagree with you on this. There are people that have a high IQ. And there's people that, and it does determine how successful you're going to be. There's no doubt about it. But I don't base that on race. There are people that are black that have high IQ. There's people that are white that have very low IQ. So that's where I have an issue with it. Not necessarily that there is the IQ determines how successful you are. There's no doubt about that. But it's about how you've kind of like fixed races into particular groups of IQ levels, and they can't kind of break out of it.
But there's nothing to dispute. The data is crystal clear. Different races have different IQs.
So let's get a poor country that has an IQ of maybe like 80, no, 75 or something, and then over 100-year period, their standard of living, just say hypothetically, goes up to the standard of one of the top in the world, just overnight. Would their IQ then, because of the standard of living, be much better? They'd have to think about.
No, because for IQ to change, I have to make a quick sorry. For IQ to change, any changes, it must happen over generations of birth. It won't happen to you during your lifetime. It will happen to your children.
Yeah, but it's the same.
So the change. So let me be very quick. The change in IQ will be infected by an environmental change, but it will take generations.
Oh yeah, so they can change.
So maybe 300 years, 400 years, 500 years.
So it's not really genetic. It's environment.
No, but change it.
No, but let me just explain. Yeah. If you raise the standard of living, and then you're saying if that standard of living persists over a period of time, your IQ will raise.
Not race. Your IQ will change. No, Raj, it doesn't.
It will change for the better, I'm assuming, because you don't have to worry about the basics of life.
Depending on your environment.
But let me say, if it was genetically fixed, no matter what environment you put them in, they would never raise their IQ because they're genetically fixed.
Okay, Raj, I'm sorry, we don't have to. So, I can explain this to you differently. That's not how to think about how IQ changes or how genes.
Oh man, Raj is going on the ropes.
All right, so I'm not going about being on the ropes. I just want to know the truth. Like,
okay, but let me make a quick one. Sorry, it's just battery. It's nothing. I'm trying to find a battery to switch the connection or something. There's like 2% on my Mac. It's very simple. Change only happens over generations, right? You won't change during your life.
No, but that doesn't make sense, Ralph. Because if it was fixed, it doesn't matter how many generations. If it wasn't to do with environment, your IQ would stay the same. But if you was to increase someone's living environments, they would slowly, their IQ will raise just because they don't have to think about, what they're going to eat next and, about how much poverty they got. I mean, am I talking madness? I don't know. What does everyone else think?
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. Go.
Oh my God, Raspect only. What a miracle.
Say that again? No.
2019. Someone clip that. I better get that, man.
You've been on my channel too much, Raj. You've been on my channel too much.
That's gonna be on my Rajophobia track.
We're rubbing off on
my Rajophobia track. My Rajophobia track. That's gonna be on there. I'm gonna clip that,
bro. Yeah, look. You're out watching it. I can't lie.
No, I've always had these views though.
I'm like Malcolm X. I'm for truth, no matter who speaks.
No. But these views I've had for like 10 years. So I don't know whether they're suddenly coming out.
You never articulate them. I feel like Ralph's brought it out, yeah. Because he's so
because no one's ever asked me whether I believe that one race is better than another. When I say I want to restrict immigration, it's not to do with race. I don't care if you're black, come in. If you're brown, come in. If you're Muslim, if you can contribute, come in. Mine is based on merit, yeah, and I don't believe that's to do with your race. So that's the difference between me and
I still disagree. That's why we still disagree, because I still feel like that's still based upon the environment, things that we're talking about, and I feel like the environments have been highly, influenced by the West. So I feel like we've kind of got a responsibility. But
yeah, I think, I'm not like what I heard was that environment doesn't have that much of an impact. But when I asked him about if a country went from a third world country to a first world country overnight, he did confirm that over a period of time their IQ would raise. So it must have a massive factor, poverty then. Otherwise, your genetics, no matter what happened, you would stick to that IQ rigidly for a long, long time. So I don't know if I'll have to listen back to see if I made any sense on it, but I think it makes logical sense. So I don't know. Yeah, everyone's saying Raj is the next leader of gang. No, I'm the leader of the Beta Misfits. We're the toughest crew at Speaker's Corner. We have transgenders, gays, little people, everything.
Man said everyone's saying he's the leader of gang. I don't know who said that, fam. Everyone is saying that.
It's everywhere. Look. You just don't want to see it because you don't like it.
Hey, Pat. Send your email, Pat.
Man's got to run, yeah. Man's out.
I know, family. Respect, bro. Thanks for coming through.
Are you going to carry this conversation over to your other channel, Raspect?
To Raspect's one, yeah. This is going over to Raspect's channel still. Everybody else wants to jump in and do your thing. I'm going to listen to
I might jump on because everyone gets annoyed that I'm like literally squatting in Raspect's channel on purpose to annoy people. So I'm jumping over.
Yeah, Ralph in the chat says thanks.
I will try and get Ralph on Friday. It won't be about race realism, but we'll talk about and tomorrow Manny Cinder's coming around my house. And so if you want an exclusive of we're gonna do a live chat in my house. If you want to see how I treat my guests, be ready. One chocolate, one custard cream, and water is only all I give.
That was a joke,
No. That's not even a joke. That's the truth.
I believe you, but it's funny still.
It's the truth.
It's like when you be doing some wild shit in your yard sometimes, and then you start whispering because somebody's outside the room.
I know, because the toilet's next door, so my mum walks past, and sometimes she's heard me just say, "I ain't paying that bullshit jizya," and she's like, "What is jizya?" And I'm like, "Oh, mum, don't worry, So I have to be careful if she hears stuff and she doesn't understand what I'm talking about. Great show though, COE. I want to listen back to the beginning.
Yeah, it was
So
alright.
was I well behaved?
Yeah, you done good, man. You done good, man. Well,
See,
yeah.
I have in the right environment. So we're talking about environment. Yeah, we'll go back to environment. You can excel. So I was in the right environment, COE.
Okay.
So I even proved my point in that the environment makes a difference in terms of how people behave. So
big up Afro Man Raf as well in the chat still. He said, "Where did you find this, brother?" He's talking about you, Ralph. Still, he was in the park still. He was in the park still. Man, see him in the park, innit? Yeah, big up for coming on right in as well. Big up JK. Thank you for the stream, them.
yeah, JK is a very streetwise boy. That's why he was talking to you like that.
Okay.
He's not really. He's a nerd. He's a nerd. He's a nerd like me. So.
I know. I already know, man. Sarah said interesting show. Sarah was sending for you as well earlier. I don't even know why I'm highlighting it still. I never like to see the beef.
Let's get Sarah on to Raspect show.
That'll be fun.
If you're on it, Sarah, you know where this. You know.
That'll be on it. Big up Sarah. Big up Big Bro as well still.
Oh, is Big Bro in there as well? Big up Big Bro, man.
Nah, he ain't. I'm just saying.
They've got a show actually. Big up this show. They've got a show going on. Sarah Garvey and the Big Bro. They run show on YouTube.
Yeah, it's true to be a banger still.
So
differently as well. Yeah, Crimes of Britain. Yeah, man's gonna we're gonna line up the next show still. Man's gonna, ain't even gonna fuck it. I was about to say what the
can we with Crimes of Britain actually talk about horses?
Yo, Crimes of Britain, are you there? Yeah, come on, you done though. Come in.
Hey, what's the horses thing about?
No, because last time we had a conversation about the British Army and how far do you go down to that, because he believes all the British armies are criminals, including the cleaning lady who cleans the toilet. So the IRA. So he said that even the woman that cleans the toilet is a criminal. And so in 1982, the IRA blew up, killed 10 soldiers in Speaker's Corner, and also killed 10 horses. And I was just asking, were the horses criminals as well for being in the British Army? So we had this crazy talk last night for like 30 minutes about horses.
Yeah, they had no choice in it.
No, he said they're mass murdering horses, that they're psychopaths. No, seriously, he said that. Because they're British horses, their brain got rewired.
He didn't say that.
He did say that, man. He said that. He said that the Irish horses are nice and peaceful, and the British horses are savages, like evil empire horses.
He didn't say that.
He did. He said they took over the world.
Those words will come out now.
No, I'm just repeating what he said. He told me,
he
man.
pointed out that they killed
mass murderers.
Irish horses as well.
He said they carried machine guns and they were mowing down Indians. He said they carried machine guns and mowing down Indians.
Cool. Raj is getting roasted on my channel.
He said that they carried machine guns and mowing down Indians.
I think you don't take it serious.
No, seriously, he said they went into India, the British horses. He went into India with the British horses that had Union Jacks and they had swords and machine guns mowing down Indians, and they're criminals. So he said horses' lives don't matter.
Did they have swords in their hoof like in his hands?
No, they used it on their hooves. They literally genetically modified them into savage horses that were just like maniacal beasts. And the rest of the horses were like lovely, peaceful ones. So yeah, a lot of history lessons yesterday. So we love our horses, though. But he did say that they were criminals and need to be tried in the Old Bailey. And if found guilty, he wants them to be executed.
Raspect was getting mad defensive over the horses, you know.
No. To be honest with you, we did have a long conversation.
The oppressed, that rose up no matter where they was. You get me?
Come on.
So are you saying that the horses that fought in all other wars were lovely horses?
All the oppressed, man.
But the British horses were savages.
No. Shout out the oppressed horses, man. And the oppressor horses, obviously, they're on the wrong team, innit?
So
they should have done. They should have just all just like going and knocking their people off their back.
Hey, Ras. Put the link in the chat, fam.
Huh?
Put a link in the chat for the new show anyway. What you're gonna do?
Let me tag it on. I think
Yeah, well, they white horses. What if they're a black horse? Does that make them?
No, Raj, the links in the
No, seriously, because I'm sure there were some black horses in there. So was it only the white horses that were the devil, the white devils?
You asking Pat? You asking?
No. I'm asking Raspect, and maybe I'll ask Pat later about the horses.
I'm gonna see if Pat's about. But
Pat was wilding in the park the other day, fam. Did you see him?
Yeah. You don't mess with him. Fam, I came up on these. You see when it comes to white, you see the Irish, the Trillies. Like, you see if man's beefing Pat, you better know what you're doing, obviously, right?
Yeah, but Raspect, they're still white. There are no genetically different from any other white person. I don't know why they think they're a different color.
But I'm not saying I've never put what white people are doing down to the genetics. I've never made that claim.
Do you know Chemo Ben Yisrael said that he wants to he said he wants to put all the immigrants. He said he wants to put all the immigrants out of America and make it white again. That's what Chemo.
Don't be talking about my brother.
Nah, that's what he said to me. I'm only repeating.
I start shutting you up,
like, he told me chemo, fam. He wants to deport all the immigrants.
You gotta leave their names out your mouth, cuz.
Do you know what, Raspect? Do you know what the content?
Yo,
they're always roast. What is it? They're always roasting me, yeah. Then he wants me to leave them alone.
We saying that they're allowed to diss you, Raj, but you can't diss them.
I don't even. You know, sometimes
Leon, he will come wind everyone up and then say, and when they reply to me, say they worship me like a god. But yo, rain hands, earlier on, you get me? You did call my brethren a prick, you know? I'm gonna like them language from my ones, you get me? Let the waistline them talk like that. Obviously, I know man might be joking and all of them things there. But me personally, when I like them joke, I know Leon's cool, he don't care about words personally, but me, from me,
Reynans is he's wheelchair bound, fam. You have to pardon them, man. There still, internet is their life. You get me, sir? You have to give them some. You have to cut them some slack. You can't end that.
Yeah, Leon, sorry, you know, Chemo. All right, so me and Chemo on the live stream.
You're gone.
We was on a live stream yesterday, and he said to me, the first thing he said to me was, "I'm gonna be your wife's worst nightmare." And I said, "No, Saeed laid naked in my bed is my worst nightmare." Yeah, Saeed Yo. So you can't be my worst nightmare. I've already got a worst nightmare. So Yo, I like talking about gay stuff because I
just leave this content over everything one
clean. No, but he was saying if someone said to you, "I'm gonna be your worst nightmare," I said, "No, Saeed Yo with his blown up leg in my room naked in my bed would be my worst nightmare."
No, he made your worst nightmare during that debate because you was pushing one thing and he had some points to oppose to yours. That's what he meant. But you take everything out of context. Everything you have to take it out of context, man. But you have to take it out of context.
He said Chemo Ben Israel said he's gonna be the new Michael Jackson. He's gonna become white.
Yo, Raj is a joke, you know, fam.
All right, so yeah, I'm gonna jump over to something. But on Sunday, I want to carry on the conversation with Ralph, but about because I think the caste system is the first racial kind of like hierarchy. I'd like to see what he thinks about that as well.
He's doing his series. He's doing his series in it, introducing the new right. So he does a little presentation, and then goes into the question and answer thing. You get me?
All right. Well, I'll jump in then and start questioning about some of these stuff. So yeah, we'll go on there. Big up Chemo Ben Israel, the new Michael Jackson. He's about to start bleaching his skin next week. I'm sending the bleaching cream to him from my Amazon account. So I will be the first person to donate his journey to being white. Anyway, guys, see you later. Leon, I'll chat to you later on Sunday, man.
But you say, man, does this man and cut out before Raspect could respond? You know?
No. Big up the Punjabis. Big up the Punjabis, man. Big up the Jamaicans who want to be British. Big up the
colonized. Big up the colonized. He said.
Big up the Jamaicans who are British. Big up the Jamaicans who are British. Big up the Jamaicans that are British, man. Don't be ashamed to be British and Jamaican. You're both. Big them up.
Big up the man who know who they are first. You get me? Just
everyone jump onto I'm gonna copy the link and put it in the I'm gonna pin it as the top comment. You get me, guys? This obviously is running through the live stream thing still, but for Raspect's show to continue on the madness. You get me? I'm gonna copy the link and paste that there still. in the main chat. So go scroll down there. You should see that now still. Yeah, this one's a rap still. Peace to Raspect, last man standing. Right for shop music, Gully banking.
And this is my first live on content over everything as well.
Come on.
Yeah, you say blaze up a little fire? Blaze up a little fire, man.
It was nice, man. You know, fire and water make lava, you get me?
Come on,
lava.
And obviously, man kept in balance, you get me, car Tuesday, man, you get me? Yeah, it's the energy still. Raj was right about that. It's got everything's got its different energies, you get me? There's a place for the hype, there's a place for the jokes, you know what I'm saying? There's a place for the debates, there's a place for the religious talk, you get me? There's a place for everything, man. And people could just dive in and out of where they want to go or what they want to hear. It's like TV. One day I want to hear. You know what I'm saying? One day a man watch Neighbours, the next day a man watch serial killings like Raj, the next day a man watch documentary. You know what I'm saying? Like people just watch one thing 24/7. They got preferences, but taking a variety amount of different, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, man, big up yourself, my brother. Cause I know you put in work. I know you did link up all the people them in the background. And you know what I'm saying? And I know you're a very hard-working brother, and I know you don't get a lot of time to yourself, my G. You know what I'm saying? So I just want the people to appreciate the thing. Cause I'm in the background, so I see the work, and I can say hands down, you're one of the most hard-working people I know. Personally, even if I didn't like you, you know what I'm saying? Say if I just didn't like you, say if you was a pagan, I say, yo, that you works hard though. That you's a hard worker. You get me? So just keep up your thing, my brother. And enough love to everyone out there, love or hate. Man, sending love to you. You get me, Carl, with a good mood. You get me?
Come on. Don't know, fam. Respect, fam. Don't know. Big up. I see that, man. Yeah, chat. We are ever, man. The Raspect show's running right now. And yeah, this thing's about to get looked up still. He's 176 people watching. I feel bad looking off the show, you know, still. But I say, Agustin. Yeah. Last man standing in business. We out.
Cheers.
I know, Respect.